If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 1. Konoha Village, Year 42, Autumn. It was that time of the year again, the annual season for new students. Amidst the chattering children, Kyomu found himself absent-mindedly digging at his ears, going with the flow of boredom. These kids are too noisy. Constantly babbling about becoming the next Hokage or dreaming of becoming a great ninja, their future plans seemed mundane and lacked creativity. Little did they know, 60% of them, along with the other new students, would meet their end on the battlefield or during a mission before the age of 18. The remaining 40%, those who might live to a ripe old age, were less than 1% of the total. Shaking his head, Kyomu put aside his thoughts and followed the crowd to the playground, gazing up at the figure standing on the platform. It was the Hokage, no, the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. A back-to-school speech was a necessary ritual to propagate the will of fire. Yet, to Kyomu, the speech was truly boring, aligning closely with his expectations. Having lived through the information explosion era in his previous life, bombarded with motivational phrases, self-help jargon, and empty promises, Kyomu had become emotionally detached and immune to all forms of rhetoric. No matter how you put it, Kyomu had his own judgment. A person's life is not just about fighting and killing, there is also. Kyomu glanced at his newly refreshed passive skill for the month, not social etiquette, but pretending to be mediocre. Passive skill, King of Nonchalance. Skill description, during skill activation, maximum talent, memory, and learning abilities. Note, this passive skill's characteristics can only be triggered in a state of nonchalance. Skill duration, 30 days. Message, since pretending to be mediocre can make you a god, why bother striving? The message makes a lot of sense, Kyomu sighed, placing his hands behind his head and looking up at the clouds in the sky. It's just a shame that such a good passive skill can only last for a month. And I have no idea what the next month's passive skill will be, it's quite annoying. Perhaps due to the influence of the King of Nonchalance passive skill, Kyomu quickly dismissed his worries in 3 seconds, completely ignoring every word Hiruzen spoke and entering a trance-like state. In this state, Kyomu's thoughts roamed freely, jumping from one idea to another. He was easily captivated by mundane things, like counting the feathers on a bird's wing that fluttered by. Hey, the student over there, please answer what the will of fire is. Hiruzen noticed Kyomu lost in his thoughts and directly called him out. However, Kyomu didn't hear it and continued to engage in his seemingly boring but internally enjoyable activities. Hey, the Hokage is calling you to answer the question. Feeling a poke from behind, Kyomu finally snapped back to reality. Turning his head, the first thing he saw was the distinctive chestnut-colored short hair and vivid purple stripes on the cheeks of Nohara Rin. But Kyomu remained unfazed, smiling and nodding at her before turning his attention back to the platform. Hokage-sama, I apologize for zoning out just now, Kyomu admitted truthfully. Could you please repeat the question? Ha ha ha. As Kyomu finished speaking, Hiruzen didn't get a chance to respond. Laughter erupted from the surrounding students. Wow, that's Hokage-sama, and he actually zoned out. He even dares to ask Hokage-sama to repeat the question. Although honest, this appearance is too amusing, right? Ha ha ha, I can bet that the tail ender of our class is him. Ignoring the voices around him, Kyomu calmly maintained eye contact with Hiruzen, waiting for his reaction. Students, please quiet down. Hiruzen raised his hand to silence the noisy crowd. With a kind smile towards Kyomu, Hiruzen repeated his question, what do you think the will of fire is? The will of fire? Naturally, it's a will with loopholes, easily exploited and manipulated. Of course, Kyomu knew it in his heart, but he couldn't express it like that. Without hesitation, Kyomu succinctly summarized Hiruzen's speech as his own viewpoint, making it sound like a profound understanding. Watching Kyomu eloquently explain the meaning of the will of fire, Hiruzen's slight displeasure dissipated. At the same time, the surrounding students, who were initially ready to mock Kyomu, no longer had the intention to do so. Even in their serious listening, they barely understood what was being said, but Kyomu, who was daydreaming, managed to offer insightful and profound thoughts. It was hard not to feel a bit awed by Kyomu's apparent wisdom. Hiruzen nodded several times, finding each of Kyomu's sentences resonating with him. However, there were still some issues. During the speech, Hiruzen had already noticed Kyomu's daydreaming, and he was quite sure that not a single word had entered the boy's ears. Now, with Kyomu answering so fluently, Hiruzen was genuinely curious. After Kyomu finished speaking, Hiruzen smiled and asked, "What is your name?" "Aragami Kyomu." "Aragami is a surname, that's a rare one." Hiruzen briefly chatted about Kyomu's family name before returning to the main topic. "Kyomu, can you tell me why you zoned out just now?" "My parents, before they passed away, always told me about the will of fire. When you, Hokage-sama, spoke about it just now, I naturally thought of them." "I see." Hiruzen nodded. "Kyomu, you need to work hard. I see the potential, or perhaps an inevitability, for you to inherit the will of fire." "Thank you, Hokage-sama. I will." Kyomu replied politely, and Hiruzen turned his attention to other students, asking one question after another about the will of fire. The chosen new students were excited, and their answers were somewhat chaotic. Kyomu, on the other hand, had once again entered a state of daydreaming. Unaware of the passing time, whether an hour or half an hour, the back-to-school speech finally came to an end. Kyomu once again followed the crowd, led by the ninja instructors, to proceed with the class assignment process. "You seem unenthusiastic about everything. Even the class assignment doesn't catch your attention. Don't you have someone you particularly want to be in the same class with?" A gentle female voice sounded in Kyomu's ear, bringing him back to reality. Turning his head to see Nohara Rin, who was one position behind him, Kyomu lazily responded, "It's not a lack of enthusiasm, I just started living the life I like in advance." "This is the life you like?" Nohara Rin opened her small mouth. "Only old men and women would like this kind of life." "I said in advance," Kyomu corrected, wagging his finger. "We will all become old men and women sooner or later, so why not enter this state now? Isn't that saving 70 years of detours?" Placing his hands back behind his head, Kyomu continued to go with the flow. "After careful calculation, I've gained a net profit of 70 years. What do you think?" Nohara Rin's mind stalled, attempting to refute but finding some truth in it. She wanted to agree but felt uneasy about it. Wanting to ask more, she was distracted by a white-haired boy with a mask not far away. Hitaki Kakashi. Clearly, compared to Kyomu, who lacked enthusiasm, Kakashi, who appeared aloof and not like an ordinary person, was more popular among girls. Rin thought for a moment, decisively abandoning her curiosity about Kyomu and moving towards the more intriguing Kakashi. Unconsciously, Kyomu lost his chance for the priority mate selection right exclusive to the back-to-school season. However, this was not within Kyomu's considerations. At this moment, he was thinking about how to maximize the benefits of the passive skill that could only last 30 days. After all, if you want to become strong by pretending to be mediocre, you have to pay attention to your posture, right? Chapter 2. Perhaps it was fate that Aragami Kyomu, upon being assigned to a different class, ended up with notable figures such as Kakashi Hitaki, Obito Uchiha, Rin Nohara, and Might Guy. Differing from the attention Kakashi received, the prestige of the Uchiha surname, and Might Guy's goofy nature, Aragami Kyomu seemed quite ordinary. Like an average passerby, he lacked any outstanding qualities. His gaze fixed on the seats in the corner by the wall, Aragami Kyomu walked straight towards them. As soon as he settled into the chair, Kakashi Hitaki, wearing a face mask and with his white hair, also approached. Without exchanging words with Aragami Kyomu, Kakashi sat beside him. It seemed that Kakashi also favored this auspicious spot. However, Aragami Kyomu chose this location for the convenience of slacking off, while Kakashi probably picked it to minimize trouble. He was just too popular among girls. Not because of Kakashi's identity, but due to the domineering and aloof aura he exuded, a dream for most girls of his age. Glancing at Kakashi, Aragami Kyomu showed no intention of starting a conversation. Resting his hands on the table, he tilted his head, using his arms as a pillow, pretending to nap. Kakashi, witnessing this behavior, rolled his dead fish eyes, unsure of what he was thinking. Once all the freshmen had chosen their seats, become acquainted with their desk mates and surrounding classmates, the ninja teacher finally arrived late. With a light cough, the lively atmosphere in the classroom immediately cooled. Except for Aragami Kyomu and Kakashi, everyone stopped their activities, looking towards the podium. "Hello, students. Let me introduce myself. I am your ninja teacher for the next 6 years, Torii Shozo." After a brief introduction, Torii Shozo unfolded the neatly folded list, ready to call names and familiarize himself with the students. The students whose names I call next should respond with here and come to the podium for a brief self-introduction. Torii called out names one by one, and as it came to Aragami Kyomu, a small incident occurred. Aragami Kyomu! Aragami Kyomu! Aragami Kyomu! Here! Torii called 3 times in succession, each louder than the last, finally waking up Aragami Kyomu from his light slumber. Were you daydreaming on the field earlier? Shozo Torii seemed somewhat annoyed. It's the first day of school, and you're already sleeping in class. This attitude is hard to forgive. Sorry, Teacher Torii. Seeing Aragami Kyomu apologize, Shozo Torii was somewhat surprised. Weren't you sleeping all the time? How did you know what I... Teacher, although I was sleeping, I was listening attentively. I remember all the self-introductions of my classmates and recognize them. Shozo Torii frowned. Kyomu, do you think saying that is convincing? Aragami Kyomu didn't elaborate much, raising his hand and pointing to the first student in the front row, efficiently stating his name and repeating the words he used during the self-introduction. After the first person, Aragami Kyomu didn't pause, continuing to introduce the others in order of their seats. When he introduced the 7th student, Shozo Torii didn't pay much attention, thinking Aragami Kyomu already knew them. However, as Aragami Kyomu continued to introduce the 10th student, Shozo Torii interrupted him. Alright, I believe that even though you were sleeping, you were paying attention to your classmates' self-introductions. Shozo Torii raised his hand. Kyomu, it's your turn to come to the podium and introduce yourself. Nodding, Aragami Kyomu bypassed Kakashi, sitting on the outer edge, and walked straight to the podium. Hello, classmates. My name is Aragami Kyomu, but you can call me Kyomu. You can also call me Aragami, as the Hokage himself said, this surname is rare, and it's seldom mispronounced. A slight smile appeared on Aragami Kyomu's face as he continued his self-introduction. As for things I like, there's nothing I particularly like, and as for things I dislike, there's nothing I particularly dislike. As for dreams, I prefer to quietly do what I enjoy. As he finished speaking, the classroom fell into silence, no applause, just everyone looking at each other in silence. This self-introduction was truly unique. Besides knowing Aragami Kyomu's name, no one learned anything else. While Kakashi found it somewhat boring, at this moment, he became more alert. After hearing Aragami Kyomu's desk-mate's self-introduction, Kakashi suddenly felt that this person was not as simple as he seemed. Kakashi couldn't pinpoint exactly what made Aragami Kyomu seem extraordinary. It was just an inexplicable feeling that this person could appeal to him. But then again, Aragami Kyomu's self-introduction didn't imply anything, he simply didn't want to say more. Just like keeping a diary, who earnestly talks about their dreams every day. Perhaps, he just didn't fit in here. Or maybe, Aragami Kyomu's mental age prevented him from actively blending in. Meanwhile, the ninja teacher, Shozo Torii, was also quite troubled. He didn't expect Aragami Kyomu, who seemed ordinary, to be a hidden thorn among the students. But he chose not to explode. Instead, he gestured to return to their seats and pay attention, not to sleep in class. Aragami Kyomu walked back to his seat, passing by Kakashi. He couldn't help but glance at him and whispered the first sentence between them. Your self-introduction was very indifferent. Thanks for the compliment. Aragami Kyomu smiled softly. Yours wasn't bad either. Kakashi didn't respond and turned his head away, ignoring Aragami Kyomu. Knowing Kakashi's personality better, Aragami Kyomu didn't take it to heart. This outwardly cold but inwardly warm and slightly sly man would be easy to get along with once they spent more time together. And, it was their first day of getting to know each other. No need to rush. Initially planning to lie back on the desk, Aragami Kyomu reconsidered. Slacking off required finesse, being too overt might not draw much attention, but ninja teacher Shozo Torii would certainly have opinions. Supporting his chin with one hand, Aragami Kyomu turned his head to look out the window. Chaotic thoughts filled his mind, and whatever happened next in the classroom had nothing to do with him. Shozo Torii noticed Aragami Kyomu daydreaming and decided that when he officially taught, he would specifically target Aragami Kyomu with questions. Soon, the students finished their self-introductions, and Shozo Torii began the first lesson. The content was basic and easy to understand, revolving around the relationship between chakra, the ninja's energy, and the human body. Kyomu, come and answer this question. Shozo Torii tapped the blackboard, pulling Aragami Kyomu's thoughts back on track. Aragami Kyomu stood up a bit reluctantly, glancing at the content on the blackboard, answering the question and even drawing broader connections effortlessly. Have you encountered this before? Shozo Torii was somewhat surprised. Were your parents your teachers, or? No, I haven't. Aragami Kyomu shook his head. It's such a simple question, anyone can see it at a glance. Telling the truth without any embellishments, Aragami Kyomu did not attempt to deceive. However, as he finished speaking, the classroom erupted. Jerk. Too much. What's he pretending for? He must have done his homework in advance, trying to highlight himself in this way. Listening to the buzzing discussions around him, Aragami Kyomu remained unfazed. He spoke the truth without any embellishment. If blame had to be placed, it was on the king of nonchalance passive skill, it provided too much. Full points in talent, memory, and learning abilities encountering him would make any same-aged ninja god question their life. Kakashi also glanced at Aragami Kyomu, further confirming his suspicions. This deskmate of his was not ordinary. Chapter 3. Kyomu also completely spaced out throughout, but when he stood up to answer questions, he performed fluently, successfully earning the wrath of many. Classmates were extremely dissatisfied, believing that Kyomu was intentionally showing off in front of others. Teacher Shozo also had suspicions, thinking that Kyomu had studied this knowledge before enrolling, considering this situation was too common. In the ninja school, although civilian ninjas made up the majority, each class had at least 7 or 8 individuals, representing the young generation of various Leaf Village ninja clans. For example, Uchiha Obito and Kakashi. Moreover, beyond these 7 or 8 individuals, there were also many students whose parents were ninjas, allowing them to receive ninja education before enrollment. And Kyomu was one of them. So, Shozo's suspicion was well-founded, giving him more confidence in his admonition. Raising his hand to silence the noisy classroom, Shozo spoke, Kyomu, you have great ninja talent, but talent needs to be realized. Even if you answered the questions correctly this time, if you keep daydreaming in class, when I cover more advanced knowledge later, you'll miss out, and in the end, be forgotten among the crowd. I don't want you to waste your talent, understand? Understood. Shozo nodded and gestured downwards, good, sit down, and remember to pay attention. Kyomu sat back in his seat, looking very focused, constantly writing and drawing as if taking in class notes. But his deskmate, Kakashi, glanced at him, almost failing to maintain his usual expressionless demeanor. Kyomu was drawing, and not very well, akin to doodling. However, soon, Kakashi averted his gaze, staring at the blackboard, seemingly attentive but lost in his own thoughts. He had known these basic points since he was 3 years old, and since he had already learned them, listening further had no real meaning. Simultaneously, Kakashi's anticipation for the ninja school faded at this moment. Instead of wasting time here, it was better to go home and have his father accelerate his learning progress. The growth time of a ninja is the most precious thing. If you're slow, the footsteps of the Grim Reaper get closer. Lost in thought, Kakashi unconsciously turned to look at Aragami Kyomu again, intending to appreciate his doodles and lighten his mood. But just a glance, and Kakashi's dead fish eyes widened. How did you do that? Kakashi pointed at Kyomu's notebook, his voice slightly louder, are you doing it on purpose? How could it be intentional? You are intentionally doing it. Kakashi concluded, pointing at the first doodle, look at your first drawing, it's just a crude stick figure. Then he pointed to the last one drawn by Kyomu, but this one, the features are vivid, almost identical to a real person. Comparing the two, who would believe it wasn't intentional? Kyomu shook his head, Kakashi, is there a possibility that this is my expression from ignorance to mastery? Do you think I'm an idiot? Kakashi rolled his dead fish eyes, achieving an exaggerated leap from complete ignorance to mastery in the time of 4 drawings is impossible, right? I always feel like you're insulting me. No, it's a fact. Well, you're insulting me. Kyomu shrugged, genius has its differences, and you can't understand, that's fine. Staring at Kyomu with a serious expression, Kakashi's firm attitude began to loosen. Looking at Kyomu's expression, he wasn't lying, he genuinely refined his drawing skills from novice to the level of an artist in just 4 drawings. But this was too fantastical, he hadn't even heard of such a talent, let alone witnessed it. However, if that were the case, Kyomu might become a formidable opponent at the ninja school. Suddenly excited, Kakashi said, "Let me believe you. If you can defeat me in a spar, I will. Let's skip the spar, I'm not interested in becoming a ninja." Kyomu decisively refused, "At least for this month, I have no interest in becoming a ninja." Kakashi was puzzled, "What do you mean you don't want to be a ninja within a month?" "Because I like to act low-key, and I can achieve my goals by just bowing slightly. Why would I be interested? There's no challenge. Damn it." Kakashi almost cursed, he almost couldn't believe that Aragami Kyomu could endure it. "Are you scared?" Kakashi taunted. "I currently have no interest in becoming a ninja." "You're just scared." "I just have no interest in becoming a ninja." "Then why are you studying high-level theoretical knowledge?" "I've already told you, I can understand and grasp it with just a listen or a glance. No need for special study." Kakashi was so frustrated that he couldn't even speak. "Fine, you like to show off, huh? Kyomu, after school, don't leave. Come with me to the training ground." Kakashi threw down the challenge, "I have to see if your strength matches your big talk. I want to go home and sleep after school. Learning all day is really tiring." "That's fine, but I suspect that when you're sleeping, a masked person will sneak in and teach you a lesson." Watching Kakashi's seemingly sincere expression, Kyomu reluctantly nodded in agreement. King of Pretense, this passive skill had another application thanks to Kakashi, and today, after school, he could reap substantial benefits. "Thanks, Kakashi." Chapter 4. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, with the sun gradually descending in the west, the gates of the ninja school swung open. Ninja students poured out in pairs, chatting as they walked. Blending into the crowd, Kakashi Hatake led the way with Kyomu Aragami trailing behind, maintaining a half-body distance, qualifying as companions. "Let's head to the training ground on the east side of the village." Kakashi glanced back, rolling his eyes involuntarily. "Hey, you're daydreaming again." "Hey? What did you say just now?" Kyomu Aragami snapped back to attention, an apologetic look in his eyes. Smack! Kakashi couldn't help but pat his forehead. "Why are you so prone to daydreaming? You even do it while walking." "I was thinking about something. Even during class earlier, you were in the same state. Were you thinking then too?" "Yeah, exactly." Kyomu Aragami nodded. "I definitely wasn't sleeping, though." Sighing lightly, Kakashi shook his head. "Forget it. Just follow me. You lead, I won't get lost." Kakashi ignored Kyomu Aragami, walking briskly ahead, guiding him out of the school gate and straight towards the public training ground on the east side of the village. During the journey, Kyomu Aragami once again drifted into a daydream. Kakashi, somewhat accustomed, didn't bother to stop him, seeming to be slowly getting used to it. Interestingly, despite Kyomu Aragami's absent-mindedness, his footsteps remained steady. Even when Kakashi intentionally quickened his pace, Kyomu Aragami didn't fall behind. Multitasking? Subjectively daydreaming while subconsciously making sound judgments or learning. Surprisingly, Kakashi's guess was correct. Kyomu Aragami, under the influence of his passive skill, the King of Pretense, was indeed in such a state. As long as his conscious mind wandered, doing nothing productive, the passive skill would activate, collecting and assimilating knowledge from his surroundings. Though the reality was as such, Kakashi quickly dismissed his previous judgment. He believed that Kyomu Aragami was simply a natural airhead, not someone with extraordinary talents. Soon, Kakashi brought Kyomu Aragami to the east side training ground of Konoha village. The training ground was expansive, mostly used by active-duty Leaf Village ninjas, ranging in strength from lower to upper-tier chunin. For Kakashi, this was an excellent place for training. Likewise, for Kyomu Aragami, it was a perfect spot for slacking off and fishing for compliments. The two arrived at a corner of the training ground, and Kakashi, excited, struck a pose and beckoned Kyomu Aragami. "Let's spar." "I concede." Kyomu Aragami, lacking any enthusiasm, admitted defeat outright. "You can train first. If you're still here after I take a nap, we can spar again." Kakashi was exasperated. "Why do you have no sense of honor? I was ready to assess your abilities, and you surrender without a fight, not a shred of competitiveness." "No, you misunderstood. We've already sparred." Kyomu Aragami found a sturdy tree to lean against, strolling over casually. "I've lost, so I'm not reneging. You go ahead, I'll take a nap. The classroom chairs are hard, this place is more comfortable. Squinting his eyes, Kakashi watched as Kyomu Aragami settled against the tree, a mix of frustration and helplessness building within him. Kyomu Aragami was technically correct, voluntarily admitting defeat during a sparring session still counted as sparring, and he hadn't violated their agreement. However, Kakashi couldn't resist the urge to reconsider his judgment. How could he assess Kyomu Aragami's true strength without engaging in an actual fight? Staring at Kyomu Aragami for a while, Kakashi finally relaxed his clenched fists, turned, and walked towards the training equipment, beginning his own training for the day. Huff, huff, huff. As snores filled the air, Kyomu Aragami slept peacefully against the tree, completely out of sync with the vibrant training atmosphere around him. It was as if someone had dropped a spoiled ingredient into a delicious soup, giving it an odd taste. Though Kyomu Aragami's snoring wasn't too loud, some people noticed him, shook their heads, and chose to ignore him. There were no rules against sleeping in the training ground, as long as it didn't disturb others. Almost no one bothered to interfere. Yet, Kakashi still felt an uncomfortable itch all over his body. Unable to tolerate it, he moved farther away from Kyomu Aragami. Out of sight, out of mind, he couldn't let him disrupt his training focus. Unbeknownst to him, Kyomu Aragami enjoyed a deep sleep, even having a pleasant dream. Only when he felt someone pushing him did he rub his eyes, yawn, and wake up. Kakashi, done with your training. What do you think? Kakashi wiped the sweat from his forehead. Just take a look at the time now. Kyomu Aragami, belatedly looking up, saw a crescent moon hanging high in the night sky, estimating it to be around 9 o'clock. Scanning the training ground, he realized it was just the two of them, no one else lingered. Ah, well, let's call it a day. See you tomorrow, Kakashi. Getting up, stretching lazily, Kyomu Aragami waved his hand in farewell. Just as he took a few steps, he turned back and asked, Kakashi, are you coming here to train tomorrow too? Kakashi didn't want to answer that question. He didn't really want to bring Kyomu Aragami to the training ground again. Being around a slacker, Kakashi worried about losing his current state of diligence and drifting towards the comfort zone he longed for. About to shake his head to refuse, Kakashi was beaten to the punch by Kyomu Aragami's preemptive response, since you agreed, we'll meet here tomorrow. Hey? When did I agree? Kakashi opened his mouth, wanting to call out to Kyomu Aragami, but he had already trotted away and gradually disappeared from sight. He runs quite fast. Kakashi shook his head helplessly. Well, let it be. One more or one less doesn't matter. Finally glancing in the direction where Kyomu Aragami vanished, Kakashi released his clenched fist, turned, and walked wearily away from the training ground. He was tired and needed to hurry home for a bath and a good night's sleep. Meanwhile, Kyomu Aragami, rubbing his stomach, walked straight into a sushi restaurant. After placing his order, Kyomu Aragami, during the wait, leisurely digested the various knowledge he acquired on the training ground earlier. Seems a bit impressive. After a while, Kyomu Aragami sighed. I've mastered all the training subjects of the people on the training ground. Feeling quite pleased, Kyomu Aragami grinned, propping his chin with his hand, contemplating whether to invite Kakashi for a sparring session another day. Before making a decision, his ordered meal arrived. Indulging in a hearty feast, Kyomu Aragami patted his round belly, swiftly paid the bill, and left. However, on his way home, Kyomu Aragami's hands moved swiftly, forming seals one after another, a sight not easy to follow. Roughly estimating, Kyomu Aragami's sealing speed was around 4 per second, undeniably impressive. For those knowledgeable in the field, the hand signs he executed revealed mastery of over a dozen C and D rank ninjutsu from all 5 chakra natures. It was somewhat frightening. Learning ability at its maximum, the primary factor behind this extraordinary feat, many secrets of ninjutsu couldn't withstand the scrutiny and calculations driven by this skill. Kyomu Aragami merely needed to passively accept the knowledge without any worries. However, Kyomu Aragami's chakra reserves were limited. He was solely practicing hand seals, familiarizing himself with the flow of chakra within his body, with no intention of casting ninjutsu. Soon, Kyomu Aragami frowned. This passive skill, it's a bit tricky. If I want to train independently, the progress is slower than a snail's pace. Shaking his head, Kyomu Aragami abandoned the idea of training. Time to go home and sleep. I'll stick with Kakashi tomorrow and see how things go for a month. Hands behind his head, swaying gently, Kyomu Aragami ambled home slowly. Chapter 5, The Next Hokage? The following day. Good morning. Kyomu greeted Kakashi warmly, and Kakashi responded in a low voice out of courtesy. Good morning. Nodding, Kyomu bypassed Kakashi and sat against the wall. Yawning, he rested his arms on the table, laid his head down, and closed his eyes as if to take a nap. Did you not rest well last night? I went to bed before 11, Kyomu responded without opening his eyes. But still can't muster the energy, feeling quite tired. Shaking his head, Kakashi remained silent. After spending more than a day together, Kakashi was certain that Aragami Kyomu was incredibly lazy and didn't take the ninja profession seriously at all. Not bothering to advise Kyomu, Kakashi turned his gaze around the entire classroom, observing his classmates. After a while, Kakashi's eyes focused on one person. With black hair, windproof goggles, wearing the clan uniform with the Uchiha fan emblem on the back, and a cheerful personality that set him apart from most Uchiha, it was Uchiha Obito. Kakashi's eyes gleamed with interest, thinking that he should be a good opponent. Despite Obito's departure from the typical Uchiha personality, his strength, being born into the renowned Uchiha clan, shouldn't be underestimated. In need of a worthy opponent, Kakashi naturally set his second target on Uchiha Obito. The path of cultivation shouldn't be confined to isolation, finding opponents, defeating them, and gaining experience from battles at various stages is the correct way to cultivate. Seemingly aware of being observed, Obito turned around, and upon seeing Kakashi, flashed a grin, revealing his two prominent front teeth. Nodding in acknowledgement, Kakashi was about to stand up, but sensing movement at the door, he sat back down. Ninja teacher Shozo had arrived. Class starts! He shouted, and students in the classroom stood up. Kakashi, looking at Kyomu still sleeping with closed eyes, grabbed the back of his collar with one hand and pulled him up. Kyomu opened his drowsy eyes, seeing classmates bowing in thanks, and he followed suit, albeit a bit delayed, making his actions stand out awkwardly. Shozo noticed Kyomu immediately, took a deep breath, and without finishing his sentence, he bit his teeth, broke the chalk in his hand, and forcefully threw it towards Kyomu. Whoosh! The chalk had traced an arc in the air, and the students' gazes followed, landing on Kyomu in the corner. Most students, expecting Kyomu to embarrass himself, were ready with laughter. However, Kyomu's performance disappointed them. Without lifting his head or opening his eyes, Kyomu seemingly predicted the trajectory, raised his hand, and accurately caught the chalk head between his two fingers. Ready to burst into laughter, the students felt an uncomfortable lump in their throats. Shozo, not expecting this from Kyomu, threw another chalk head. Whoosh! Thud! As expected, Kyomu once again caught it effortlessly. The students, ready for a hearty laugh, were left in an awkward silence. Shozo, irritated, threw a third chalk head. Whoosh! Thud! No surprise, Kyomu caught it again. This time, Shozo seemed a bit embarrassed. Staring at Kyomu, Shozo prepared for a serious move. Several throws later, Shozo broke the chalk into 3 pieces and, with a brief pause, used the throwing technique typical of a ninja. Whoosh! Crack! Inevitably, Kyomu swiftly caught the first 2 chalk pieces, and using the same swift motion, shot them forward. The chalk pieces in midair collided, altering their original trajectory and knocking down the ones aimed at Kyomu's forehead and back neck. As for the chalk aimed at Kyomu's wrist, he caught it for the 3rd time. This! Kakashi was somewhat stunned, and Uchiha Obito, with protective goggles, felt the same. Is Kyomu's throwing skill this high? The flame that had extinguished in Kakashi before reignited. Kyomu's strength was undoubtedly worth a spar. Meanwhile, Uchiha Obito, at this moment, took off his goggles, revealing a look of envy, and applied eye drops to his eyes. When his Sharingan awakened, he would achieve even more bizarre and unpredictable throwing techniques than both Shozo and Kyomu. Kyomu! But Shozo couldn't tolerate it any longer. Stand up! With sleepy eyes, Kyomu stood up, looking blankly at Shozo on the platform. Get out! Shozo pointed outside. Come back when you're awake and can guarantee not to doze off in class again. Haha! Ignoring Kyomu's performance just now, the laughter that had been held back for a long time finally erupted, providing some relief. Kyomu didn't argue. He left his seat and walked straight out of the classroom, standing obediently at the door. No need to close the door, Shozo hardened his heart but softened his tone. Just stand there and listen. Thank you, teacher. Kyomu thanked him and stood straight at the door. Soon, however, Kyomu's mind wandered, and he found himself gazing at the clouds in the sky, imagining various strange and wonderful things about them. Shozo ignored Kyomu and began teaching the students. His voice was loud, and Kyomu could hear every word clearly, not missing any details. In a daze, Kyomu passively absorbed the knowledge Shozo was imparting, quickly grasping and understanding it. Slowly, Kyomu, who had started counting the leaves on a tree out of boredom, didn't realize that changes were quietly taking place within him. He was refining chakra. These are the key points, students. Familiarize yourselves with them and memorize them. Later, I will supervise your first chakra refinement in life. Shozo descended from the platform. But remember, those who have not refined chakra before should not attempt it without permission to avoid danger. Understood. Nodding, Shozo walked out of the classroom, preparing to have a talk with Kyomu. However, just as he approached Kyomu, Shozo was suddenly shocked. Why is this kid so impulsive? Wanting to stop, Shozo hesitated as his hand touched Kyomu's shoulder. He then stopped his motion. Chakra flow in the meridians was good, and there was no sign of pain in Kyomu's expression. Obviously, Kyomu had completed a perfect chakra refinement for the first time. Kyomu. Shozo's tone softened. Have you learned how to refine chakra before, and have you successfully completed your first chakra refinement? Not at all. Kyomu came to his senses and shook his head. This is my first time refining chakra. Alright, I'll trust you. Shozo nodded. If this is your first time refining chakra, it means you have great potential as a ninja. Your future is bright. Changing the subject, Shozo continued, but Kyomu, having talent is not an excuse for being lazy. You must know that even geniuses need to work hard, otherwise, one day, you will be overshadowed by others. Thank you for the reminder, teacher. I will remember. Shozo patted Kyomu's shoulder with a smile. Go back to the classroom, and remember, no more next time. Nodding, Kyomu turned and returned to the classroom. Shozo was now even more pleased. What a good seedling. If cultivated properly, he might be the next Hokage. Chapter 6. Although Kyomu acted nonchalant, his progress in studies couldn't be overlooked. Ninja instructor Torii Shozo treated him as a genius due to his learning pace. Because of this, Shozo tolerated Kyomu's subsequent nonchalant behavior in class. Despite this tolerance, Shozo wanted to encourage Kyomu to not waste his talent. Sharing the same thoughts as Shozo was Kakashi. As Kyomu's desk mate, after 2 days of interaction, Kakashi was convinced that Kyomu was a genuine genius. To be able to perform so well even while daydreaming and acting nonchalant, what could Kyomu achieve if he put in effort? During break time, Kakashi coldly brushed off attempts by girls to strike up conversations, even from Rin. Seeing there were no people around, Kakashi turned to the uninterested Kyomu. I now believe you are a genius. Oh, so you admit you were scolding me yesterday. Kyomu raised an eyebrow and handed a drawing to Kakashi. Here, a gift for you. Thanks for helping me out yesterday. Kakashi's eyes widened, and he absent-mindedly accepted the drawing from Kyomu. Upon a closer look, Kakashi almost burst into laughter. If not for the mask covering his face, his big white teeth would have been visible. The drawing depicted the scene from the first class that morning when Hotaki Kakashi effortlessly lifted Kyomu from his seat. I can see it now, you're truly bored. Despite his sarcastic remark, Kakashi's actions were quick and natural. He neatly folded the drawing and stashed it in his ninja pouch. Well, geniuses live in a lonely and desolate world. Without finding something to do, it's challenging to pass these boring days. Kakashi rolled his eyes. Look at what you're saying. And don't underestimate me. Poking Kyomu's arm, Kakashi extended another invitation. How about a sparring session after school today? No. Kyomu decisively refused. His passive skill, the King of Nonchalance, had a duration of only 1 month. He had to make the most of this passive skill and maximize his strength. Kyomu avoided activities like sparring and rigorous training. He could skip them, after all. However, in Kakashi's eyes, Kyomu deliberately avoiding a fight seemed like a bad attitude. Aren't you the one who keeps saying you're a genius? Kakashi mocked. Why, afraid of failure, genius? Of course. Kyomu didn't take the bait. Is a failed genius still a genius? As long as I don't engage in a fight, I won't fail, and I'll remain a genius. This silenced Kakashi completely, leaving him with a sense of powerlessness. After glancing at Kyomu, Kakashi couldn't help but raise his hands in resignation. You don't seem like someone my age, and you lack the most basic competitive spirit. So you should learn from me. Kyomu boldly declared. Learn to avoid unnecessary conflicts, reject internal struggles, and you'll save yourself from a 70-year detour, enjoying a wonderful life of nonchalance. What ridiculous logic! Rolling his dead fish eyes, Kakashi decided not to bother with Kyomu anymore. He lifted his butt off the seat and headed straight towards Uchiha Obito not far away. At that moment, Obito was chatting happily with Rin. However, upon seeing Kakashi approaching, his smile immediately disappeared. He already had some opinions about Kakashi. And the reason was simple: how could Kakashi be so fierce to reject Rin, such a gentle and beautiful girl? Hey, apologize to Rin. Kakashi paused, unable to comprehend why Obito said that. Why should I apologize? Seeing Obito wanting to speak, she hurriedly pulled his sleeve and shook her head to signal him not to intervene. That's okay, pretend I didn't say this. Kakashi nodded. He didn't want to waste his energy on such trivial matters. Right now, his only desire was to find an opponent and identify his weaknesses through battles. As the bearer of the Uchiha surname, following Kyomu, Kakashi was undoubtedly his second choice. I have something to say. Kakashi looked at Obito seriously. I want to spar with you, see if Uchiha is as formidable as rumored. Spar with me. Obito's eyes widened, excitement filling them the next moment. Are you sure? I'm very powerful. Sure. Good, let's go. Obito stood up, glancing back at Rin. Rin, do you want to watch? Sitting in the corner, Kyomu observed everything. He immediately saw through Obito's intentions. Obito wanted to showcase himself in front of Nohara Rin. No action spoke louder than defeating potential rivals to prove one's excellence. After a brief consideration, Rin nodded in agreement. Following Kakashi and Obito, she left the classroom. Not only Rin, but most students in the classroom also followed suit. They wanted to witness the legendary Uchiha's true strength. Kyomu was no exception. Mixing with the crowd, he followed them out, intending to find a place to continue his nonchalant behavior while observing the techniques and combat experience of Kakashi and Obito. Soon, dozens of people followed Kakashi and Obito to the playground, forming a circle around them voluntarily. Kakashi and Obito stood in the center. Aragami Kyomu opted not to join the crowd. Instead, he sat on a swing nearby, swinging absent-mindedly, as if the happenings before him had nothing to do with him. I'm up! Obito shouted, clenching his fists and charging towards the casually standing Kakashi. Observing Obito rushing towards him, Kakashi's eyes revealed a hint of disappointment. While Obito had some sense of rhythm in his attack, it only slightly surpassed that of an ordinary person. Compared to competitive geniuses, the gap was noticeable. Taking a step back, Kakashi effortlessly avoided Obito's first punch as if he had predicted the attack route. Unaware of the gravity of the situation, Obito continued to swing his fists, attacking Kakashi with somewhat impatient steps. 2, 3, 4 times. Obito's attacks, more than a dozen in a row, all missed, and Hatake Kakashi easily dodged them with the leisurely pace of a casual stroll. Too slow. Kakashi shook his head, disappointment deepening in his eyes. Maybe you're just a fish that slipped through the Uchiha net. I might have set my expectations too high. What do you mean? Obito became agitated. If you have the guts, fight back, don't keep dodging and embarrassing yourself. Provoked and no longer willing to take it lying down, Kakashi, with a subtle movement, exploited one of Uchiha Obito's many attacking flaws, launching a swift and unexpected counterattack. A punch, a kick, almost without pause, landed on Obito, quickly bringing him to the ground. All right, it's over. Kakashi crouched down, placing a hand on Obito's neck. In a real fight, you would be dead by now. Again. Obito refused to accept defeat. I was careless just now, next time. No next time. Kakashi shook his head, stood up, and turned to leave. The surrounding students automatically made way for Kakashi, watching as he walked straight towards Kyomu, who was swinging on the swing. My only acknowledged opponent, do you want to have a match with me? Me? Kyomu snapped out of his thoughts, casting a somewhat resentful glance at Kakashi. Can't you be a bit more responsible with your words? Don't hype me up too much. Kakashi, with a concealed smile behind his mask, raised a corner of his mouth. If you don't agree to spar with me, in some time, challengers will surround you. Do you believe that? Of course, I believe. Kyomu jumped off the swing, standing steadily in front of Kakashi. But I won't accept, just like how I rejected you. Let's wait and see. Leaving behind these words, Kakashi turned and left the sports field. As for the students around, their attention shifted away from the departing Hatake Kakashi. All eyes were fixed on Kyomu. Among them was Might Guy, blending in the crowd like an inconspicuous bystander. Chapter 7. The rather sly and dark-hearted Hatake Kakashi did indeed play a trick on Aragami Kyomu. As long as Hatake Kakashi established his reputation, and Aragami Kyomu remained the only acknowledged opponent by his own admission, Kyomu would never find peace again. Kakashi, is your heart so dark? Can't you let me peacefully get through a month? In the corner by the wall, Kyomu pushed Hatake Kakashi, saying, hurry up and explain to those eager people. I really don't want to cause trouble. Too late, Hatake Kakashi smirked. If you accept my challenge, you won't have these troublesome matters. But if you refuse and keep avoiding, be prepared to be harassed every day. Taking a deep breath, Kyomu sighed, fine, it seems you are determined. Since that's the case, forget what I said earlier. As he spoke, Kyomu turned his head, ignoring Hatake Kakashi, and immersed himself in his thoughts. Hatake Kakashi chuckled and didn't bother Kyomu anymore. He turned his head to survey the entire classroom. Soon, his gaze collided with Uchiha Obito, and Hatake Kakashi saw the dissatisfaction and determination in Obito's eyes. That's more like it. This is the normal behavior of boys in this age group. Hey, Kakashi, Uchiha Obito shouted across the room, I was careless before, and I haven't awakened the Sharingan yet. I haven't truly shown my strength. Tomorrow, when I've adjusted, dare you have another match with me? Hatake Kakashi couldn't help but raise an eyebrow, intentionally provoking, since you've already lost, don't find excuses. If you still want another match, come back when you can surpass Aragami Kyomu. Don't underestimate me. Uchiha Obito slammed the table, shifting his gaze from Hatake Kakashi to Kyomu. Hey, Kyomu, let's have a match this afternoon. I'll definitely beat you. I'm not interested in comparing and sparring. Kyomu shook his head. If you insist on comparing, you've already won. I concede. Surrender before even fighting. Uchiha Obito slammed his hands on the table, leaning towards Kyomu. What do you mean? Are you looking down on me like Kakashi? Kyomu felt annoyed. He just wanted to quietly endure a month, but Hatake Kakashi had to disrupt his peace. I said I'm not interested in sparring for now. Damn it. Unable to hold back, Uchiha Obito leaped from his seat and punched towards Kyomu's face. With a focused gaze, Kyomu caught Uchiha Obito's incoming fist with one hand, then, with his left hand clenched in a fist and right leg taking a step forward, he delivered a punch and a kick almost simultaneously on Uchiha Obito. Next second. Bang! Uchiha Obito lost his balance and fell to the ground, adopting the same posture as when he fought Hatake Kakashi earlier. Receiving the same blow twice under the same move, at this age, it was somewhat disgraceful for Uchiha Obito. However, Hatake Kakashi, who had been watching, brightened up. He turned his head sharply to look at Kyomu. I knew it. I knew you were not ordinary. Hatake Kakashi spoke rapidly. If you didn't have enough combat experience as a backing, you wouldn't be able to achieve this level. Hatake Kakashi was familiar with Kyomu's moves against Uchiha Obito since he had used them during the break. But compared to Kyomu, Hatake Kakashi felt his proficiency was slightly lacking. From this, it could be inferred that Kyomu's combat strength might not be lower than his own, possibly even higher. Having reached this conclusion, Hatake Kakashi became more excited, continuously focusing his gaze on Kyomu. All of this is thanks to you, Kakashi. Kyomu looked at him seriously. Also, stop looking at me with that gaze. I'm allergic to it, and it's severe. It seems my method is effective. Hatake Kakashi misunderstood Kyomu's words. I'll intensify it until you agree to spar with me. Rolling his eyes in exasperation, Kyomu had no intention of continuing the conversation. Misunderstandings could stay as they were, he didn't mind. As long as he could watch Hitaki Kakashi's fights from the sidelines and unconsciously learn from them, Kyomu chose to deal with the rest in a laid-back manner. Perhaps, with this approach combined with the passive skill King of Nonchalance, he could unleash a different kind of spark. And having been knocked down for the second time and ignored for the second time, Uchiha Obito's mood became even worse. Moreover, the halo from the Uchiha surname was gradually dimming. Even the attitudes of the surrounding classmates towards Uchiha Obito showed subtle changes. Not necessarily good or bad, but due to Hitaki Kakashi's meddling, Kyomu involuntarily entered Uchiha Obito's competition list. Getting up from the ground, Uchiha Obito, discontented and stubborn, scolded the two, "Wait and see, tomorrow, I will reclaim my dignity." Leaving these words behind, Uchiha Obito turned back to his seat, sitting down with a visibly lowered spirit. Behind Uchiha Obito, Nohara Rin, at this moment, poked his back gently and spoke comforting and encouraging words in a gentle tone. Now, the downturn in Uchiha Obito's eyes disappeared instantly. Holding Nohara Rin's hand, Uchiha Obito made promises and assured her that he would prove himself tomorrow, defeating Hitaki Kakashi and Kyomu. At the same time, in another corner of the classroom, Might Guy, with a hint of eagerness in his eyes, soon became insecure and weak. His desire extinguished quickly, and he lowered his head, full of hesitation. Kyomu observed all of this without any intention to change his thoughts. For no other reason than his strength not being sufficient. Continue to act weak. After this brief episode, the ninja teacher, Shuzo, began the second class of the morning. The content was simple and boring, supervising the students refining chakra independently. For Hitaki Kakashi, this learning pace was torture. He felt that going to ninja school was a waste of time. Glancing at Kyomu, who was drawing next to him, Hitaki Kakashi shook his head. He didn't want to waste time in this way. Suddenly, Hitaki Kakashi thought about skipping a grade. Maybe the quality of teaching in the higher grades would improve. Although Kyomu was pretending to be weak, he noticed the subtle changes in Hitaki Kakashi's expression. "Do you want to learn to draw with me?" Kyomu approached. "It's a good way to alleviate loneliness and a perfect choice for diversified development." "This is even more boring." Hitaki Kakashi shook his head. "Kyomu, have you ever thought about learning more advanced ninja knowledge? Are you going to teach me?" Kyomu looked at Hitaki Kakashi seriously. "If you're teaching, I can reluctantly listen when my mind wanders." Hitaki Kakashi had developed an immunity to Kyomu's outrageous statements. "On a serious note, with your talent, you shouldn't waste time in lower grades. Perhaps geniuses understood each other." Hitaki Kakashi extended an invitation to Kyomu. "Do you want to consider skipping a grade with me? Let's wait a bit longer. We can see if the teaching quality improves tomorrow." After thinking about it, Hitaki Kakashi thought Kyomu had a point. Nodding, he was about to respond when suddenly SHZ called their names. "Hitaki Kakashi, Kyomu Aragami, stand at the door. Come back in when you're done." Hitaki Kakashi was momentarily stunned, while Kyomu stood up promptly and willingly helped Hitaki Kakashi up from his seat. "Ha ha ha." Kyomu, who received the treatment of standing at the entrance for the second time on the second day of school, was once again ridiculed by the entire class, dragging Hitaki Kakashi into the misfortune. "Why is your face red?" At the doorway, Kyomu questioned Hitaki Kakashi's soul. "You said the lessons were boring. Coming out for some fresh air is good, don't worry too much. Do you think I'm like you?" Hitaki Kakashi's face couldn't hold up. "And I'm not blushing, not at all. Then, dare to skip class. Skip class on the second day of school. What I mean is, we can eavesdrop on the higher grades by the door." Kyomu pointed to SHZ standing on the podium. "I think Professor Torima also means that." Hitaki Kakashi quickly understood, and being pulled by Kyomu, the two sneaked to the door of the higher grade classroom. SHZ, however, turned a blind eye, pretending nothing had happened. Chapter 8. As noon approached, Kyomu and Kakashi finally peeked into the classroom door. "Have you two finished talking?" Seeing Kyomu and Kakashi nod, Shuzo waved to them. "Then come in, and remember to pay attention in class from now on." "Got it, Teacher Shuzo." Kyomu and Kakashi returned to the classroom, ignoring the gleeful glances from their classmates. They sat back at their seats and patiently waited for the end of school at noon. After a short while, the bell rang, announcing the end of the class. Shuzo declared the end of the class and left, causing the classroom to burst into activity. Moving seats and playful banter were common occurrences, and at this age, children were all about having fun and being carefree. Once students formed small groups, they took out their lunch boxes from their backpacks and shared their meals with each other. Bang! A light sound caught the attention of Kyomu and Kakashi, who were having their lunch. They looked towards the origin of the noise. Uchiha Obito. Obito, can you be a bit quieter? The gentle voice of Rin echoed simultaneously, followed by a smile. She then asked Kyomu and Kakashi, can Obito and I sit here? Our place is too noisy. Of course. Thank you. Rin smiled and said, I have sorry in my lunch today. You guys can try it. Kakashi's eyes subtly lit up, sorry was his favorite. After Rin sat down, Obito followed suit, sitting across from Kyomu and Kakashi. Perhaps for the sake of face, Obito spoke condescendingly, my lunch has shrimp, scallops, and beef. More than I can finish alone. Kyomu smiled, and Kakashi rolled his eyes. Both could discern the underlying meaning in Obito's words. Although it felt awkward, there was no denying that Obito wanted to be friends with them. I'll help you with some. Kyomu picked a piece of beef from Obito's lunchbox. The taste is excellent. The person who made your lunch put a lot of effort into it. Of course, that's my grandmother. Obito was prompted by Kyomu's words to open up, let me tell you. Untainted by darkness, Obito's personality was friendly, making him an ideal friend. Also, with a touch of talkativeness, he was a perfect match for Kakashi. Although Obito sometimes let out a sharp remark due to Kakashi, their banter continued. But Kyomu, who enjoyed such an atmosphere, didn't mind. He even felt like he became a third wheel in the developing friendship between Hitaki Kakashi and Uchiha Obito. After a simple lunch, the four of them became more acquainted. However, even in this camaraderie, there was still a competitive relationship between Obito and Kyomu, not because of Rin, but due to Obito's competitive spirit. At this age, where there's no lack of competitiveness, especially considering the high-risk nature of the ninja profession, one couldn't survive without a strong will to compete. Kyomu, you're not suited for the ninja profession at all. After being mocked by Kakashi, Obito, who had stopped talking to him, turned his attention to Kyomu. Hey! Kyomu snapped out of his thoughts. Sorry, Obito, I was a bit absent-minded. Can you say that again? What the hell? Obito slapped his forehead vigorously. Kyomu, are you naturally stupid? We're so close, and you can still daydream. Get used to it slowly. Kakashi interjected, besides daydreaming, Kyomu doesn't seem to have any other hobbies. Glancing at Kakashi, Kyomu remained silent, turning his attention to Obito. Obito, I said, you're not suited for the ninja profession at the moment. But the truth, except for me, who else knows? Aragami Kyomu didn't delve into further explanation. In general, what you see and what you think might not necessarily be true. Yet, just like how you took down Obito in one move. No one except him knows why, with the Uchiha surname on his back, he lost. Every word from Kakashi stung, and Obito was hit again. Kakashi. Kakashi casually commented, if you're not a user of the Sharingan, I don't have to consider what I say. Ha ha ha. Unable to hold back, Rin spoke up, do you guys have to be so entertaining in your banter? It's really interesting. Who's bantering with Kakashi? I don't bother dealing with him. Obito turned away, his cheeks slightly red. I'm just stating the facts. Yes, it's the truth. Kakashi chimed in, if you can't withstand my teasing, don't talk back. I only talk to Uchihas who have activated the Sharingan. You're not qualified now. The faces of Obito became even redder, and he turned his head, ignoring Kakashi. However, he couldn't let it rest and chased after Kakashi out of the classroom. Kakashi, I don't want to wait until school is over. I want to settle this now. Oh? You want to call a high-level Uchiha to take back your dignity? Kakashi taunted, and you're not that weak. Don't need to do something so tasteless. Nonsense, I won't do something so tasteless. Obito decided to cut to the chase, I mean, dare you to come with me to my usual training ground after school. We'll have 100 rounds. I think Kakashi will agree. Suddenly, Kyomu interrupted. If you go, Obito, I promise to have a serious match with you. We'll fight for real. Really? Aragami Kyomu extended his palm. Really? Smack. Kakashi was cooperative, extending his hand to meet Kyomu's. That's settled. After I finish cleaning up Obito 100 times, we can spar for a couple of rounds. Hey, what do you guys mean? Obito glared at them, full of anger. I'm not a bargaining chip, and I'm not that weak. It's not about underestimating you. Currently, you do have considerable strength, Kyomu fairly remarked, but, well, I could beat you 100 times in this state. That's true, even if you are strong, in this state, I could defeat you in a week. Kakashi didn't delve into explanations. Overall, what you see and what you think might not necessarily be true. Yet, just like how you took down Obito in one move. No one except him knows why, with the Uchiha surname on his back, he lost. Obito was hit again, and the words from Kakashi continued to sting. What do you mean? Obito fiercely stared at Kyomu, you must explain it to me. There's no need for detailed explanations, right? Kakashi chimed in, what Kyomu means is, when you activate the Sharingan, you will have strength, but for now, I can beat you 100 times. Kakashi was quite sarcastic, and with Kyomu's intentional or unintentional side comments, Obito couldn't argue with them. He could only get angrier. Kakashi, I don't want to wait until school is over. I want to settle this now. Obito pounced towards Kakashi, who deftly avoided him. However, Obito persisted, chasing Kakashi out of the classroom. Kakashi, it's not as difficult to get along with as it seems on the surface. Rin, who hadn't chased after them, initiated a conversation with Kyomu. Besides, Obito's personality is not like a typical Uchiha. It's quite pleasant to be around him. If this continues, it could be a good start and ending. Kyomu watched the two running further away, and his thoughts began to wander. The ending, perhaps, could be changed. Chapter 9. As soon as the school bell rang, students flooded out of the classrooms, fearing they might lag behind if they didn't hurry. Kyomu, on the other hand, was in no rush. Like a leisurely stroll, he trailed behind. Kyomu, school is over. Can't you be a bit more energetic? Obito, leading by 4 or 5 paces, turned back to call out. Hurry up, or we'll run out of time. Kyomu raised an eyebrow. I can keep up, and why are you in such a hurry to get beaten up? Nonsense. Kakashi and I haven't decided who will beat whom. Anyway, walk faster. Kyomu remained silent, but his pace quickened. The 4 of them walked together, led by Obito, and after half an hour, they arrived near the remote Uchiha residence. It was hard to imagine that the Uchiha, renowned throughout the ninja world, lived in a place far from the center of Konoha. However, there must be a reason for the Uchiha clan to receive such special treatment. But Kyomu didn't care about all that. He only cared about how much useful knowledge he could secretly learn in the training ground today. Strength always ranked first in this world. Stretching lazily, Kyomu found an opportunity to slip away. You guys go ahead and fight for 100 rounds. I'll wander around and see if there's a good place to pass the time. Obito, focused on a battle with Kakashi, didn't intend to stop him. Hey, don't go too far, and don't wander near the training grounds opened by my other clan members. If something unpleasant happens, I won't be able to control it. Though he didn't plan to interfere, a warning was still necessary. People with personalities similar to Obito's were rare in the Uchiha clan. If Kyomu wandered into places he shouldn't, it was normal to face some unnecessary trouble. I know. I'm well aware. Kyomu naturally understood that Obito's words were not empty. I'll be nearby, call me when you're done with your fight. With that, Kyomu turned and left casually. In the not-so-large training ground, only Kakashi, Obito, and Rin remained. Kakashi, today I must show you my true strength. Kakashi's face showed no extra expression, he just waved at Obito, appearing fearless. Obito was just being stubborn. At this stage, his strength was truly indescribable. Meanwhile, watching from the sidelines, Rin seemed to anticipate Obito's fate, squinting her eyes without much interest. As expected, when Obito faced Kakashi, he was completely overwhelmed in both combat skills and intelligence. In just 1 or 2 moves, Kakashi could easily knock Obito to the ground. But Obito refused to admit defeat. Even with a bruised and swollen face, he insisted on 100 rounds of battle. The 13th time he fell, Obito got up for the 13th time, only to be knocked down by Kakashi in 2 more moves. Getting up again, being knocked down again, this repetitive cycle made Rin unable to bear it. At the same time, Kyomu had leisurely reached a simple training ground opened by another Uchiha clan member. Without going deeper, Kyomu climbed onto a large tree, lay on a branch, and fell asleep. This open and obvious behavior, even a ninja with little battle experience or just starting school could easily notice where Kyomu was. Considering the proud nature of the Uchiha clan, Kyomu's behavior actually reassured them. What they were truly sensitive to was someone secretly spying, not Kyomu's behavior that was evident at first glance. As expected, a Uchiha ninja soon arrived at the training ground. He noticed Kyomu sleeping on the tree branch from a distance. Pausing, activating the Sharingan instantly, the Uchiha ninja's scrutinizing gaze fell on Kyomu. In just 2 or 3 seconds, he withdrew his gaze, showing a touch of disdain. Just a kid who wandered here to sleep, without any threat. Moreover, he could confirm that Kyomu was really sleeping, without any traces of disguise. Without any vigilance, the Uchiha ninja confidently walked into his private training ground to carry out various daily exercises. Uchiha ninjas were disciplined, otherwise, they wouldn't have gained such fame in the ninja world. First, he warmed up with Uchiha-style throwing techniques, then performed Uchiha-style fluid techniques, and finally practiced the Uchiha clan's proficient fire release techniques. As for worrying that Kyomu might be learning by watching nearby? Nonsense! Uchiha-style throwing techniques, Uchiha-style fluid techniques, why were they named Uchiha-style? The reason was simple. Without the Sharingan, learning them would be like copying blindly, resulting in something messy and ineffective. Apart from wasting time, there would be no benefits. And for the final practice of fire release techniques, expecting a 4 or 5-year-old kid to learn everything while sleeping. Absolutely impossible, even for the all-powerful Sharingan. Hey, Kyomu! Kakashi's voice came from a distance. So, you're hiding here to sleep? Hey! The training Uchiha ninja focused his gaze. Does this kid have companions? Why are they coming near our clan's residence? Feeling puzzled, he stopped his actions. With a few body flicker jutsu, he intercepted Kakashi just before he reached Kyomu. Kid, explain your intentions. Hearing this, Kakashi couldn't help but take a step back, staring at the 2 Sharingan eyes that were crimson and covered by a mask, looking tense. Sharingan 2 Tomo Sharingan at that. This was the first time Kakashi had seen it since he was 4 years old. Scared stiff, kid. The Uchiha ninja spoke with a cold tone. This is private territory. Leave with your useless companion, or I won't say it a second time. Who are you calling useless? Kakashi clenched his fists. Besides, this is just near the Uchiha clan residence, not your private territory. Boom. Suddenly, a powerful kick soared. Although Kakashi managed to cross his arms to protect his chest, he was still kicked far away. After a few tumbles, he stood up again. Looking up, Kakashi's eyes showed a solemn color. This was the first time he had seen a Sharingan, especially a 2 Tomo Sharingan, at the age of 4. At the same moment, the Uchiha ninja threw 3 shurikens with one hand. The shurikens flew towards Kakashi, each taking a strange and unpredictable trajectory. Kakashi quickly grabbed a kunao, but before he could block the incoming shurikens, their trajectories changed again. Clang, clang, clang. 3 crisp sounds echoed, and one of the shurikens made a sharp turn, directly flying towards Kyomu, who was not far away. The other 2 nailed themselves just 2 centimeters in front of Kakashi's feet. Bang! At the same moment, the shuriken aimed at Kyomu lodged itself into the tree trunk, waking Kyomu up from his dream. What the hell? Uttering a curse subconsciously, Kyomu fell from the tree. If you step over these 2 shurikens, no one can save you. With a swift movement, the Uchiha ninja threw another shuriken towards the tree trunk where Kyomu was sleeping. The sound of the shuriken hitting the trunk disturbed Kyomu's dream. What the hell? Uttering a curse subconsciously, Kyomu fell from the tree. Don't go near him, or you'll regret it. Swish! Leaving these words behind, the Uchiha ninja used body flicker jutsu to leave his original position. By the time Kyomu was about to hit the ground, he was already there. Grabbing the back collar of Kyomu, the Uchiha ninja used body flicker jutsu again. However, Kakashi had already crossed the area marked by the shurikens with hand signs, ready to save Kyomu. With a flick of one hand, the Uchiha ninja tossed Kyomu towards Kakashi, but before Kakashi could reach out to catch him, Kyomu performed a few elegant somersaults in midair and landed steadily. "Ha, it seems you have a good relationship. You actually ignored my previous warning." The Uchiha ninja sneered and then turned his back. "But I'm in a good mood today, so I'll let you off. Get lost." Kakashi clenched his fists, his eyes glaring at the Uchiha ninja's back, full of anger. After 2 or 3 seconds of silence, he finally pulled Kyomu away. At the same time, the battered Obito was limping towards them. "Uncle, you... did you bring them here?" The Uchiha ninja stared at Obito. "I hope this is the last time. Do you understand? But, they are my friends, and I just... Uchiha doesn't need friends." Glancing at the injuries on Obito's body, the Uchiha ninja said, "And your performance doesn't resemble an Uchiha at all. It's simply a disgrace to our clan." Obito opened his mouth, wanting to say something but choked. In the end, he could only lower his head and walk away silently. Indeed, being ruthlessly beaten 100 times by people of the same age, Uchiha was not a fitting surname for someone like Obito. Feeling uneasy, Obito caught up with Kakashi and Kyomu. "I'm sorry. There's nothing to apologize for. It's just a matter of skill." Kakashi shook his head. "But his attitude is really terrible." Chapter 10. Uchiha Obito desired to have friends and hoped to train and progress together with them. However, the appearance of Obito's uncle disrupted everything, making the atmosphere tense. Many of the words Obito had prepared in his heart became irrelevant in the face of the ironclad reality. No matter how he explained, faced with the solid facts, everything seemed pale and powerless. It was a situation only the Uchiha clan could create, where even outsiders passing by the house would get slapped. Only someone like Obito could pull off such a thing. Maybe the Obito from before wasn't like this, and they had their reasons for doing what they did. However, many people didn't bother to understand the reasons, they only cared about the results. For example, Kakashi, whose perception of the Uchiha had now turned negative. Of course, Kyomu was an exception. But even Obito could sense that Kakashi was deliberately keeping his distance, perhaps not because of Obito himself, but because of his clan. Seeing Kyomu silently sitting on the side, Rin didn't know what to say. She just stayed by Obito's side, carefully tending to the bruises on his face. Kakashi had been relentless in his attacks. But this was also related to Obito's determination not to admit defeat, willingly enduring the blows even when he knew he couldn't win. Glancing at Obito and Rin on the side, Kakashi shifted his gaze, finally landing on Aragami Kyomu. "Today, no matter what, you won't refuse to spar with me, right?" "Of course." Kyomu nodded, took a few steps back, creating distance between him and Kakashi. Seeing this, Kakashi's previous displeasure vanished, replaced by excitement. Finally, he could engage with Aragami Kyomu. "Best of 3, rock paper scissors," Aragami Kyomu suddenly proposed. "Hey!" Kakashi thought he misheard. "What did you just say?" "Say it again." "Best of 3, rock paper scissors." Kakashi pulled the corner of his mouth. "Kyomu, are you playing dirty again? Don't forget I ignored the warning and went to save you just now. In terms of both reason and emotion, you can't treat me like this. That's why I set the rule of best of 3, rock paper scissors. This way, we can spar for a longer time." Kyomu shrugged, indicating that he did his best. "You call rock paper scissors sparring? Getting physical, like this?" Kyomu gestured, making a move with his hands. "See, is this not physical enough?" Smack! Kakashi slapped his forehead in disbelief. He couldn't believe it. Taking a deep breath, Kakashi pulled Kyomu to the side, away from the curious eyes of Obito and Rin. "Keep it quiet, come quietly," Kakashi compromised, though his face showed some reluctance. Kyomu didn't mind. He casually played 3 rounds of rock paper scissors with Kakashi. 1 win, 2 losses, Kyomu lost. "Kakashi, you're really strong." Kyomu's voice was loud. "I didn't expect you to be so proficient in rock paper scissors. I can't beat you. Tired, destroy." Kakashi didn't want to talk, turned around to look at Obito and Rin, who were watching them with interest, and suddenly blushed. "I'm going home," Kakashi found an excuse to leave, and tomorrow, I might not come. Leaving these words behind, Kakashi quickly departed, leaving behind Kyomu, who seemed indifferent, and Obito and Rin, who looked somewhat disappointed. Kyomu, do you think Kakashi? You're overthinking it. Kyomu interrupted Obito, he won't take tonight's incident to heart, let alone hold any grudges against you. Kakashi is genuinely concerned about his own strength. After all, he was weak and helpless at that time, completely suppressed. Although the strength was mismatched, it clearly stimulated Kakashi. So, just wait and see. Kakashi will enter a state of intense training in the future, without paying much attention to us. Obito nodded, looking hopefully at Kyomu. What about you? Will you still come over to train with me in the future? As for me, I can occasionally come over to take a nap, as long as your uncle won't drive me away again. He won't. I'll talk to him. Obito's eyes lit up, you're just finding a place to sleep, it won't be a problem. That's hard to say. Kyomu doubted in his heart, but on the surface, he still managed to maintain some face. I'll wait for your good news. Okay, that's settled. Obito approached Kyomu, so, are we friends now? If you think so, then we are. Obito smiled, but the bruises on his face made the smile look a bit painful. Seeing the somewhat ridiculous Obito, Kyomu shook his head, patted his shoulder, my friend, I'm going home now. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Obito watched Kyomu leave and then prepared to personally escort Rin back home. It had to be said that Rin's treatment was not the treatment friends should give each other. On the way home, Kyomu lowered his head in contemplation, holding a few small stones he had picked up along the way. Suddenly, he flicked his finger, and 3 small stones shot out. They flew a distance, collided with each other, changed their trajectory, collided again, and continued flying forward for another distance before undergoing the third collision. When the third collision was complete, the practice came to an end. Without the power of the Sharingan, reaching this level is already the limit. Kyomu shook his head, and this is just a simple modification of the trajectory of thrown objects. Many unique Uchiha throwing techniques can't be used at all. As for Uchiha fluid arts, it's even more exaggerated. It's impossible to play without the Sharingan, without that gene. He smiled bitterly, today's plan is a failure. Even if I absorbed and improved some techniques from Uchiha's flowing throwing technique that I can use, it's impossible to completely replicate it. But I did learn a few fire release jutsus, not a complete waste. Back home, Kyomu cooked something to fill his stomach, prepared a bento for the next day, and then cleaned up before getting ready for bed. I still have quite a bit of this month's stipend left. Tomorrow, after school, I'll go to the ninja tool shop and get some tools for self-defense. Lying in bed, Kyomu contemplated the events of tomorrow, and I don't need to go to the training ground near Uchiha's residence. It's better to pretend to be weak and learn from others at the public training ground. It's safer. With the decision made, Kyomu fell asleep in an instant. Meanwhile, Kakashi, who had returned home early, was still training diligently. Today's events were a disgrace to Kakashi, and only by working even harder to improve his strength could he possibly redeem himself. But during the breaks in his training, Kakashi couldn't help but unconsciously think of Kyomu, the seemingly lazy person who was anything but simple. Kyomu, you clearly have that ability and talent, but why are you hiding it? Or is it all just my imagination? At the same time, someone else pondered the same question, Uchiha Obito. Recalling his uncle's simple analysis of Aragami Kyomu's strength tonight, he couldn't sleep, tossing and turning in bed. Kyomu, are you really, as my uncle said, overpowering me in real strength and slightly surpassing Kakashi? If that's the case, how did you do it? With questions and confusion in his mind, Obito considered many possibilities, but in the end, he couldn't resist the drowsiness and slowly closed his eyes. This answer may never be revealed. Chapter 11. Early the next day, Aragami Kyomu, Hitaki Kakashi, Uchiha Obito, and Nohara Rin met in the classroom, exchanging greetings before going about their own business. Kyomu was busy daydreaming, Kakashi was busy digesting yesterday's training, Obito and Rin were busy chatting to strengthen their bond. Life during their student days was orderly, and Kyomu enjoyed it a lot, but there was also an underlying tension. In 5 more years, the Third Ninja War would erupt, and Aragami Kyomu wouldn't be able to stay uninvolved. Therefore, within this month, he was determined not to miss any opportunity to improve himself, no matter how small. Kyomu, go stand near the door for me. Shz erupted again. Although Kyomu answered all the questions correctly, Shz chose to have him stand by the door to cool off. Kyomu walked out of the classroom amid the laughter of his classmates, quickly disappearing outside. He sneaked near the higher grade classrooms to eavesdrop on their lessons. As for Kakashi, his desire to skip a grade became stronger. He was fed up with the slow learning progress in the lower grades. The chakra refining method taught yesterday was still unfamiliar to a large portion of the class, halting the learning progress. For a genius, mastering chakra refinement was easy, either in one try or after a couple of attempts. However, the Ninja Academy catered to average students, not geniuses. Kakashi wanted to accelerate his progress against the timeline. During lunch, Kakashi skipped class without taking Obito and Rin, nor did he inform Kyomu. Obito had objections to this, and classmates were disdainful of Kakashi. Kyomu remained unfazed, he had anticipated this day. Without the occasional banter with the white-haired kid, Kyomu's afternoon became even more boring today. Without waiting for Shz to scold him, he voluntarily left the classroom to continue eavesdropping on the higher grade lessons. Shz ignored it, but classmates automatically labeled Kyomu as the class slacker, along with Kakashi who skipped class. Kyomu just smiled indifferently, not bothered by the rumors. Having spent a perfect day, Kyomu declined Obito's invitation. With a prepared budget, he bought a high-quality ninja knife, 5 kunao and a dozen shuriken from the ninja tool store. With his savings depleted, Kyomu couldn't afford to eat out anymore. He spent evenings at the public training ground, learning and practicing until late, before slowly heading home. Notably, Kyomu never encountered Kakashi at the public training ground. He wondered where Kakashi went. Certainly, Kakashi spent the entire day working hard, he wouldn't let himself be idle. The efforts of a genius were sometimes frightening. However, in this state, Kakashi was not as effective for Kyomu as sleeping through a couple of lessons at the public training ground. Days passed, and Kyomu's reputation as the class slacker solidified. Shz, the teacher, tried talking to him numerous times during class, but it always ended in failure. Helpless, Shz had to give up. During class, as long as Kyomu didn't disturb others' learning, Shz turned a blind eye to whatever Kyomu did. Similarly, Shz didn't bother about Kakashi, who skipped class without a clear purpose. Enjoying their antics, Shz had no intention of interfering. Days of slacking and idling passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, a month had gone by. Today, the Ninja Academy organized a unified monthly exam for all grades to assess the students' progress. The lower grade exam was straightforward, a written test, a throwing technique test, and a physical skills test, all of which could be completed in a day. As for the ninjutsu exam, sorry, lower grade ninja students weren't deemed worthy of learning ninjutsu. Hey, Kakashi, haven't seen you in over 20 days, hey. Kyomu turned to the white-haired kid sitting next to him. Did you go on a beach vacation? Your face got all tan. Humph, dreaming of my vacation while you're daydreaming. Kakashi rolled his dead fish-like eyes. Focus on yourself. You can't use the excuse of surrendering or hiding your skills in this month's exam, right? Well, I did have that plan initially, but recent discussions have been bothering me. So, you changed your mind? Kakashi's eyes lit up, but his words were merciless. Didn't expect someone with such thick skin like you to be immune to gossip. Hearing Kakashi mention gossip, Kyomu suddenly thought of Kakashi's father, Hitaki Sakumo. Gossip can be deadly. Kyomu muttered, then shifted the topic, asking Kakashi, why did you suddenly stop skipping class? What's the reason? For you. Don't joke with me. Do not swing that way. Damn it. Kakashi had a black line on his face. Sometimes, I want to tear your mouth apart. I feel the same way, but I'm more curious about the face under your mask. Kakashi rolled his dead fish-like eyes. You'll never see it in your lifetime. If I win, can you let me see it? Ha, do you think that's realistic? Kakashi sneered. I heard someone spent the whole month going to different public training grounds to nap. You think you have the strength to beat me? And I have reason to suspect you'll resort to trickery again. Let's make a bet. Kyomu looked unusually serious. On the last day of this month, let's have a fair and square spar. If I win, you show me what's under the mask. If I lose, I'll be ready to spar with you anytime next month. How about that? After a moment's thought, Kakashi nodded. Fine, it's a deal. It's a deal. The two shook hands, sealing their second promise. At the same time, both saw a strong determination in each other's eyes. Kakashi believed this was a secure move, he could finally assess Kyomu's true strength. For Kyomu, it was a chance to test the effects of his efforts over the past month, taking Kakashi as a benchmark. As for the rumors about them, neither cared. Rumors could be shattered with strength, couldn't they? Chapter 12. The monthly exam arrived as scheduled. Ninja teacher Shozo specially arranged for his first-year students to be brought to a large auditorium, where each of them had an individual seat. As the exam papers were distributed, Aragami Kyomu couldn't help but smirk as he glanced at the contents. It was just too easy. The first part consisted of general subjects, which posed no difficulty for Aragami Kyomu. He quickly put pen to paper. The later sections covered the basic ninja knowledge taught over the month. Naturally, this posed no challenge for Aragami Kyomu either. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The sound of pencils on paper echoed through the hall. Kakashi and Kyomu were writing at a swift pace, finding the exam effortless. However, most students in the exam room were furrowing their brows, struggling with the questions on the paper. Why were the questions so difficult? Obito was one of them. Biting his pen, he looked around, hoping to copy answers from other students in a stroke of luck. Obito even couldn't help but think, what if he awakened his Sharingan? Would cheating in this exam be easier? But Shozo was no pushover. Any student showing signs of cheating wouldn't escape his notice. Either he would approach and knock on the table to make them behave, or he would clear his throat as a form of punishment. In any case, students under Shozo's watch would inevitably comply. Obito sighed in frustration, looking at the seemingly incomprehensible paper. He could only try to fill it with answers, even if it meant guessing. At least, he had to aim for a passing grade, right? Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing. However, Kyomu and Kakashi were unaffected. The two of them wrote as if competing to see who could finish faster, without a pause in their pen movements. The scheduled hour and a half for the written test was over in just half an hour for Kyomu and Kakashi. Almost simultaneously, they raised their hands, indicating they were ready to submit their papers. Shozo glanced at the two, and the students around them also shifted their attention to Kyomu and Kakashi. TCH, seeking attention. Some students thought cynically. They couldn't believe that Kyomu, the one who daydreamed in class and got punished at the door every day, and Kakashi, who had been skipping classes for over 20 days, could complete the paper in such a short time. Well, you can leave the exam room after submitting your papers. Shozo didn't say much. He had no expectations for Kyomu and Kakashi. Once the two left the classroom, Shozo, feeling a bit bored, took a look at their answer sheets. However, his eyes nearly popped out. They didn't cheat. And they got everything right. Excitement, disbelief, suspicion filled Shozo's mind. Putting down their papers, he scanned the rest of the class, and his expression quickly turned cold. These mediocrities. They paid attention in class, did well in the assigned homework, yet during exams, why did they all wear a mask of agony? Shaking his head, Shozo continued invigilating, enduring until the bell rang to signal the end of the exam. Students started handing in their papers, some relieved, others overly nervous, and a few with vacant stares. But unanimously, when Shozo left the exam room with graded papers in hand, the classroom erupted. Compare answers, we must compare answers. Groups of friends gathered, wailing or cheering occasionally. Even Obito, red-faced, approached Rin. Rin, how did you do the third question? I answered like this, but I'm not sure if it's correct. Although there are some differences from my answer, you should have gotten it right. Obito tried to sound confident, but his mood had plummeted. Rin, what about the other questions? Rin explained her answers to Obito in detail. Upon hearing it, Obito's face lost its color. Rin, are my answers incorrect? Rin, seeing Obito's state, started worrying. I don't know, but there's a significant difference between my answers and yours. Obito was in shock, but he couldn't bring himself to ask others. He reluctantly asked Rin to check answers with other students. As for why Obito didn't approach Kyomu and Kakashi, he had fallen into a mental trap. Two people who daydreamed and skipped class daily, how could they possibly get everything right? Meanwhile, Rin didn't approach Kyomu and Kakashi either. Their surroundings seemed deserted. Kyomu and Kakashi, however, were quite relaxed, calmly watching their classmates compare answers. The confusion in their hearts grew. Was there still a point in comparing answers now? Regardless of the point, everyone enjoyed the process. An hour later, when Shozo returned to the classroom with graded papers, the spectacle finally concluded. "I'm very dissatisfied with this month's exam." Shozo burst out upon entering. Only 3 students scored above 90, and not even half passed. What's more outrageous is that some managed to score in single digits, and I don't even know how those scores were achieved. He slammed the pile of papers onto the desk, and Shozo Torii started calling names and distributing papers. Nohara Rin, 93. Rin excitedly stood up, gesturing a victory sign towards Obito, who admired her from not too far away, then walked towards the podium. After Rin, most students mentioned by Shozo scored between 60 and 70, with a few failing. Might Guy, 7. Ha ha ha. When the single-digit score appeared, the classroom erupted into laughter that could probably lift the roof. Even Might couldn't help chuckling. How could one even score 7? Uchiha Obito, 9. Hey! Obito's smile froze. Impossible. How could I score so low? Check if your name is written on the paper. Shozo tossed the paper at Obito. I've taught so many students, and you're the only Uchiha who scored less than 90. Ha ha ha, Obito, who scored 9, was just laughing at Might Guy for scoring 7. Now, laugh again. 1 Obito is equal to 1/10 of other Uchihas, ha ha ha. Laughter echoed from all sides, even from those who were previously laughed at. Obito held the paper in silence, sitting back at his desk with a lowered head, unsure of what to think. As the papers were distributed, no more single-digit scores were seen. The students who wanted to see the excitement now shifted their attention to Kyomu and Kakashi. These two must also have single-digit scores. Aragami Kyomu, 100. Hitaki Kakashi, 100. As Shozo announced their scores, the classroom first fell silent, then erupted into chaos. What? How is that possible? Teacher, did you read the papers correctly? He daydreams and skips class every day. Must be a mistake, I don't believe it. Kyomu and Kakashi paid no attention to the discussions around them. They walked up to the podium, received their papers, and returned to their seats calmly. Quiet down, Shozo gestured to calm the students. These are the true scores of Kyomu and Kakashi, and they did not cheat. Now, the classroom fell completely silent. Breaths were audible, and all eyes were fixed on Kyomu and Kakashi. Perhaps, they had overlooked something crucial. They didn't understand the world of genius. In comparison to geniuses, their efforts and rewards were incomparable. At this moment, some became convinced, even admiring. But at the same time, some went from doubt to hysteria. I don't believe it. Neither do I. In the second exam, they will surely reveal their true colors. Kyomu could understand the feelings of these few people, but he had no intention of responding. The second exam? Well, let's just wait and see. Chapter 13. You two are truly remarkable when you need. Filled with admiration, Obito caught up with Kyomu, who was walking ahead alongside Kakashi. How did you two manage this? Kakashi remained silent, he didn't want to discourage Obito. Kyomu also wanted to stay silent, but Obito persisted, come on, share it, friends. You don't have to be so stingy. Obito, it's not about the method, Kyomu shook his head. Observing more, learning more, thinking more can indeed make your grades passable or even excellent. But to go further, you need talent, something you can't learn. Humph, I can do it too. Obito was stubborn. Don't forget, I am an Uchiha. Everything will change once I awaken my eyes. Instead of relying all your hopes on the Sharingan, it's better to seek breakthroughs in other aspects. Kakashi took over the conversation. The Sharingan is powerful, but it's not everything, nor the only thing. At least, before awakening, you need to have a certain level of strength to survive until that moment. Kakashi was not wrong, but Kyomu remained reserved. Obito belonged to the Uchiha, a clan favored by fate. Remarkable when silent seemed more suitable for him. In comparison, genius and cheats seemed somewhat insignificant. Well, in this era, who didn't have a few cheats? Kyomu was not worried about his future. However, Obito didn't agree with Kakashi's words. Given his situation, the only thing that could turn the tide for him was his Sharingan. Everything else was hopeless. Humph, by next year, no, this year, when I awaken my eyes, everything will be different. I will definitely catch up to you guys. Seeing Obito bring up the Sharingan again, Kakashi opened his mouth, but in the end, swallowed the word stuck in his throat. It was the innate advantage of the Uchiha clan. No one could compare or interfere with it. Glancing at Obito one last time, Kakashi ignored him. Kyomu did the same. It wasn't isolating Obito, it was just that they started from different starting lines. How could they support each other? For example, when you talked about hard work to Uchiha, he would mention the Sharingan. When you brought up talent, he would still talk about the Sharingan. Even if you mentioned ability, he would stick to the Sharingan. There was no way around it. After a moment of silence, Kyomu and the others finally arrived at the wide training ground under the guidance of their ninja teacher, Torii Shozo. There were relaxation facilities like slides and swings, fitness equipment like parallel bars and pull-up bars, as well as training tools like dummies and targets. Commanding the students to form a long line, Shozo pointed to the targets in the distance, announcing the content of the second round of the exam. The exam was quite simple. Each student had 5 kunao and 5 shuriken. Hitting the bullseye earned 10 points, hitting the outer circle earned 9 points, and so on. After throwing all kunao and shuriken, the total score was calculated. Hanada Kappa, Shozo called out the first student. Come forward to receive your kunao and shuriken. Hanada Kappa eagerly nodded, took the kunao handed by Shozo, and stood outside the pre-drawn white lines. After careful aim, he successively threw the kunao and shuriken in his hands. 79 points, pass, Shozo wrote down a score on his notebook. Next, Asami Ikki. Thud, thud, thud. One shuriken missed the target, scored 63 points, pass. Nobumitsu continued to call names, and as the students took turns, the bad mood from the written exam seemed to dissipate. Although these students struggled with academic subjects, most of them did well in practical courses. Even Uchiha Obito and Might Guy, who scored low in the first exam, performed excellently in the second round. Especially Might Guy, achieving a perfect score by hitting the bullseye with all 10 throws. Shozo looked at him with newfound respect, realizing Guy's exceptional talent and physical skills. Due to Might Guy's outstanding performance, the mocking glances from the surroundings decreased significantly. Even though Might Guy proved himself, Kyomu and Kakashi were also here. Suddenly, all eyes were on them again. Not that they wished ill for others, but Kyomu and Kakashi's previous behavior in school couldn't support the classmates' expectation for outstanding performance. Why should they get a perfect score when they were slacking off at the school gate every day? It was unfair. Kakashi, come forward to receive your kunao and shuriken. Finally, the moment arrived. The atmosphere became lively again. The students craned their necks, eager to see Kakashi's performance. Kakashi didn't keep them waiting for even a second. Taking the kunao and shuriken from Nobumitsu, he threw them all at once with a skillful and swift motion. Thud, thud, thud. Before Nobumitsu could announce the results, the surrounding students couldn't remain calm. Especially those girls who were enthusiastic about Kakashi on the first day but gradually lost interest over the past month. Now, they were excitedly dancing around, as if Kakashi's performance was their own achievement. Perfect score. Kakashi threw them all at once and got a perfect score, completely different from the previous high difficulty ones. Indeed, without any surprises, Kakashi should be the first in the second round. Did you forget about Kyomu? Him? He looks like he hasn't slept for days, impossible to be better than Kakashi. One person disdainfully shook their head while pulling others aside, whispering, let me tell you, Kakashi is the son of Konoha White Fang. Although he skips class, he... Finally, someone uncovered the truth about Kakashi skipping class. With such information at hand, the rumors about Kakashi quickly dissipated, replaced by praise for his talents. Kyomu, come forward to receive your kunao and shuriken. Finally, it was Kyomu's turn. Though not the last, he was towards the end of the line. Similar to Kakashi, the students eagerly watched Kyomu, expecting to see his performance. Kyomu took the kunao and shuriken, preparing to go all out. Swish, swish, swish. Kyomu threw the weapons, and the trajectories of the kunao and shuriken were a bit disorderly, resembling a dance of falling flowers. Ha! Laughter erupted as Kyomu's weapons flew in random directions. However, before anyone could fully enjoy the moment, the kunao and shuriken that had crossed the bullseye unexpectedly changed their trajectories after a series of collisions, forming a large arc and returning, hitting the bullseye once more. Obito and Kakashi exclaimed simultaneously, "Uchiha flow throwing technique." Seeing this, Kyomu and Kakashi both said, "How is it possible? Kyomu has never learned this." "It's not the Uchiha flow throwing technique," Kyomu shook his head. "The technique is similar, but compared to the real Uchiha flow throwing technique, it lacks 3 points of complexity and 7 points of unpredictable lethality." Obito tried to recall the scenes from the Uchiha clan's ninja training but realized that, as Kyomu said, his throwing technique, while impressive, didn't reach the level of insanity with the assistance of the Sharingan. Thinking about this, Obito sighed in relief, but his confidence took another hit. Even someone like Kyomu, who didn't possess Uchiha eyes, could perform such high-level techniques. Squeezing his fist, Obito's self-confidence was once again shaken, and he couldn't help lowering his head. Would he never be able to erase the shame of the Uchiha? "All right, continue the exam," Shozo told Kyomu to step aside and started calling out the names of the remaining students. However, after Kyomu's explosive performance, the mental states of the following students were inevitably affected, and their performances became somewhat abnormal. In the third round, Kyomu undoubtedly outperformed Kakashi, once again securing the first place. "Kyomu, you've hidden it well." During the break before the third round, Kakashi found Kyomu. "But no matter how you hide, during the third round, I'm confident I can figure out all your secrets. Be my welcome." Kyomu smiled. "Kakashi, I want to see how much you've grown with your sunburned face." Rolling his eyes, Kakashi turned away, not wanting to engage with Kyomu. Arguing with him was truly futile. So annoying. Chapter 14. Aragami Kyomu's performance in the second round of the exam silenced some critics, making them quickly change their tune and cheer for him. Strength is not only a likable trait to women, it also resides in the core of men as well. Undoubtedly, Kyomu is the current powerhouse, overshadowing everyone of his age except for the equally impressive Kakashi. No one can catch up with or dim his brilliance. As a result, classmates split into two factions, some rooting for Hitaki Kakashi and others for Aragami Kyomu. However, the number of female students supporting Kakashi is greater than those supporting Kyomu. This is influenced by their personalities and how they carry themselves. Kakashi, with his aloof demeanor, is more appealing to girls compared to Kyomu, who seems indifferent and carefree about everything. Watching Kakashi being surrounded by numerous female students, Kyomu shook his head, amused. He could tell that Kakashi wasn't enjoying the attention and even seemed eager to escape from the encirclement. Being able to make Kakashi uncomfortable brought Kyomu a great satisfaction. After struggling for a while, Kakashi finally escaped the crowd. However, when he saw the expression on Kyomu's face, his initial sense of relief turned into discomfort. "You're relishing in my misfortune." "What do you mean by relishing in your misfortune?" Kyomu immediately retorted. "I'm just appreciating that you've resolved your life's major issues ahead of time. If you keep this up, you'll end up with no friends." Kakashi gritted his teeth. "Can't you shut up for once? Is that too much to ask?" "It can't be helped, but why should I stay silent?" Kyomu raised an eyebrow, not continuing the discussion with Kakashi. "How about using a ninja blade in the third round of the exam? Do you want me to use it?" Kakashi's expression became serious. "I can use it, but be prepared for injuries and bloodshed." Seeing Kakashi's solemn expression, Kyomu naturally wouldn't joke around. "It's okay, I'm prepared, and I really want to see how sharp the swordsmanship of the Hitaki clan is. You'll see." Kakashi reached into his ninja tools pouch, taking out a very short ninja blade. Judging by Kyomu's estimation, the ninja blade in Kakashi's hand was only slightly longer than a dagger, with a blade length at most the combined length of 2 kunao. Strapping the ninja blade to his back, Kakashi looked at Kyomu and then shifted his gaze to the ninja blade on Kyomu's back. "Do you also excel in swordsmanship?" Kyomu shook his head. "Not really skilled, just learned some random styles, a mix of various techniques." Hearing this, Hitaki Kakashi was puzzled. "What are random styles? And how did you learn a mix of various techniques?" "It's not systematic, but in real combat, some of these moves are quite practical." Kyomu lightly tapped the handle of the ninja blade on his back. As for how I learned, you can think of me as a genius among geniuses. Just a glance, and I won't forget. Kakashi fell silent, he no longer doubted Kyomu's words. Only this explanation could account for why Kyomu didn't pay attention in class, never joined in after-class secret training sessions, and slept soundly in the public training ground every day while still possessing outstanding skills. I envy you a bit, Kakashi sincerely said. If I had your talent, I could elevate my strength to another level. Can you guys stop this mutual admiration? Obito approached, irritated. I'm getting annoyed just listening on the side. Children should let the adult talk. Kyomu retorted, earning a muffled laughter from Rin, who was standing next to Obito. Kakashi, despite his mysterious demeanor, found himself at a loss for words in the face of Kyomu's witty banter. Kyomu! Obito shouted in dissatisfaction but didn't dwell on the matter. He had more important things to discuss with Kyomu. Approaching Kyomu, Obito slowed down his speech, sounding a bit embarrassed. Kyomu, when the exam is over, can I ask you for a favor? Let me hear it. Could you teach me your throwing technique? Speaking of this, Obito lowered his voice, and if it weren't for Kyomu's sharp ears, he might have been able to get away with it. It was not surprising, though, an Uchiha seeking advice from Kyomu on throwing techniques was akin to Guan Yu asking an outsider for advice on wielding a large weapon. Not only Kyomu but even Kakashi heard it. His dead fish eyes widened instantly. Is the great Uchiha out of options? I'm asking Kyomu, I didn't talk to you. Obito blushed, retorting against Kakashi. Kakashi fell silent. Although still puzzled, he realized that Obito had come to seek guidance from Kyomu, not him. Kyomu, look. If you don't mind losing face, teaching you won't be a problem. Thank you, thank you. Obito quickly expressed his gratitude. I knew you wouldn't refuse me. Kyomu nodded, then changed the subject. But let's be clear, I'm not going to the Uchiha training ground. I don't want any trouble. Uchiha Obito was taken aback and hesitated. But if we go to the public training ground, I think. No need for the public training ground. Kyomu looked at Kakashi. Ask him. After skipping class for more than 20 days, Kakashi must have his secret training ground. I don't have any secret training ground. I just set up a simple training field in the Forest of Death. I don't care. Obito interrupted, looking up at Kakashi. Just one thing, will you take us there or not? Take us. Take us. Kakashi spread his hands. What's so difficult about it? After all, it's not me losing face, it's our dear Uchiha. Although Kakashi was sarcastic, Obito felt grateful rather than embarrassed. Kyomu and Kakashi, despite their teasing, cared about Obito both in their thoughts and actions. Obito, who longed for friendship, naturally understood and enjoyed all of this. After a few more chats, Shozo estimated that the break was almost over. He clapped his hands, signaling classmates to gather. In his hands, he held a cardboard box prepared long ago, filled with neatly folded pieces of paper. Its use was quite simple, the opponents for the third round of the exam would be decided by drawing lots. The winners would advance to the next round, with subsequent opponents determined by drawing lots. Losers would enter the resurrection match and draw lots for their respective opponents from the losers group. Overall, the third round exam was quite complex and time-consuming, requiring at least half a morning and an entire afternoon to determine the final rankings. Shaking the box, Shozo called for half of the students to line up for the draw. After the draw, Kakashi curiously approached Kyomu. Kyomu, who's your opponent? It's Might Guy, a bit unexpected. Kyomu replied truthfully. Him. Hatake Kakashi looked towards Might Guy in the distant corner. Doesn't he seem particularly outstanding? We'll see later, he's not simple, especially in the field of physical arts. Kyomu shook his head, no longer paying attention to Kakashi, and found a place to close his eyes and rest, intending to adjust his state to the best condition. Kakashi was quite curious, his gaze continued to wander around Might Guy. A person who made Kyomu so cautious might indeed have some extraordinary qualities. Chapter 15. Might Guy's current mood was a mix of nervousness and excitement. He worried about whether he could defeat the emerging genius, Aragami Kyomu. However, he also looked forward to the upcoming spar with Kyomu. To engage with a prodigy was a meaningful and long-awaited event for Might Guy. Under the influence of Might Do, Guy had already begun to awaken his unique traits. The mindset of not giving up and not wasting his youth was deeply ingrained in him. Although Guy hadn't yet embraced the optimistic and energetic demeanor he would develop in the future due to his self-esteem issues, it was foreseeable that the sparring with Kyomu would mark the first step forward for Might Guy. "Kyomu, please enlighten me," Guy said seriously, forming hand seals with utmost concentration and bowing slightly towards Kyomu. Aragami Kyomu reciprocated, following the etiquette of their spar. "Guy, please enlighten me." As soon as the words fell, Guy instinctively created some distance from Kyomu. It wasn't a matter of right or wrong, it was merely a reflection of individual combat preferences. Compared to Guy's caution, Kyomu inherently leaned towards aggression and didn't adhere to the strategy of waiting and seizing opportunities. Swiftly advancing, Kyomu approached Guy, his right hand already on his ninja tool pouch. With a quick flick, 3 shurikens were held between his fingertips. Swish, swish, swish. With a sudden swing of his right hand, 3 shurikens shot out, forming a character, blocking Guy's limited space for forward movement and maneuvering. Observing from the sidelines, Shozo's eyes glinted at Kyomu's predictable yet essential tactics, a necessary step before a ninja initiated an attack. Simple but practical. Hitaki, who was also closely monitoring the battle, instantly adopted Might Guy's perspective, contemplating how he would respond if he were facing this situation against Kyomu. However, Guy's performance as the participant left much to be desired. His pre-training was limited to basic physical conditioning taught by Might Do, and his knowledge about combat was lacking. Looking a bit flustered, Guy took a few steps back, reaching for his ninja tool pouch with his right hand, intending to counterattack with kunao or shurikens, similar to Kyomu. However, his movements were somewhat clumsy. While the shurikens Kyomu threw were approaching, Guy hadn't retrieved his necessary tools from his pouch. Witnessing this, Kakashi couldn't help but shake his head, denying Kyomu's earlier statement about Guy's extraordinary abilities. In his opinion, Guy was just of average skill and didn't stand out much. Shozo also shook his head while observing. Kyomu's straightforward tactic seemed to have already secured his victory, and he was prepared to intervene and rescue Might Guy at any moment. However, Guy's subsequent performance surprised both Kakashi and Shozo, challenging their preconceived notions. In a sudden twist to the left, Guy narrowly avoided the shurikens coming from the right. Subsequently, without exerting much force, he leaned backward, relying on the excellent stability provided by his lower body. Naturally, the 2 shurikens approaching from the front and left were narrowly evaded as well. Though thrilling, Guy's performance was remarkable, showcasing the limits of his body's reaction speed and flexibility. Such quick reflexes! Kakashi marveled. While I can achieve this to some extent, it's not as smooth as he demonstrated. Shozo, evaluating Might Guy's actions, commented, a beautiful spontaneous adaptation. However, it's evident that Guy's response was instinctive, lacking deliberate training. Despite evading Kyomu's initial attack, he lost the initiative and entered a defensive state. Watching the 3 shurikens about to collide, Shozo shook his head again. The outcome seems predetermined. Kyomu's throwing technique is quite impressive. Ding, ding, ding. As predicted by Shozo, even though Might Guy successfully dodged the first round of shuriken attacks, chaos ensued as they collided. With sparks flying, the 3 shurikens changed their flight paths, targeting Guy's back and flying towards him again. Accompanied by the collision's sparks, the shurikens redirected towards Guy's back, causing him to panic. He forgot that Kyomu had this trick up his sleeve. No time for further contemplation, and driven by instinct, Guy forcefully propelled himself with a sudden burst of power from his legs. Simultaneously twisting his waist and abdomen, relying on powerful core muscles, he turned his body into a spinning gyroscope, rotating horizontally twice in mid-air. He skillfully avoided the 3 shurikens attacking from behind. Such outstanding body coordination! Kakashi's eyes lit up. I suddenly understand why Kyomu praised him earlier. It was evident that Guy's 2 evasion moves were entirely instinctive and not the result of deliberate training for on-the-spot reactions. This was talent skills that could be mastered without intentional learning, in stark contrast to techniques acquired through training. Shozo also nodded in approval, acknowledging Might Guy's unexpected performance. Too bad Kyomu's practiced throwing skills went to waste, Shozo remarked. If Kyomu had the Sharingan to assist him, a simple prediction would have led to Guy's defeat at this point. Glancing at Obito, who was watching the battle, Shozo couldn't help but feel a bit unbalanced. The Uchiha clan is indeed blessed. With just one awakening, they can match years of hard training by others. Though the spectators had diverse thoughts, once the initial probing failed, Kyomu had already closed in on Guy. While Guy's performance had been impressive, it was clear that, until his natural talent was fully realized, there was still a considerable gap between him and Kyomu. At least in terms of strategic intelligence, Guy was still like a blank sheet. Having lost the initiative and falling into a passive defensive state, Guy was completely drawn into Kyomu's attacking rhythm. Bang! A seemingly ordinary straight punch was swung, and Guy crossed his arms to barely block it. Upon landing, he swayed a few times, retreating several steps to dissipate the remaining impact. Without giving Guy time to adjust, Kyomu closed in again. Suddenly feinting a sweeping leg motion, he threw Guy off balance for a moment. As Guy jumped to evade, he belatedly realized that Kyomu had already changed his move. Angling at 45 degrees, Kyomu kicked right into Guy's chest. Bang! Mid-jump and without a surface to push against, Guy could only endure the attack, getting kicked and sent flying. Observing from the sidelines, Kakashi noted that Shuzo hadn't moved an inch. He could see that Guy had a sturdy physique and could endure such blows. However, within the battle's context, Kyomu didn't hesitate to follow up with the final blow. Closing the distance with one more step, Kyomu reached out and grabbed Guy's wrist as he soared backward. Swiftly leveraging and using Guy's flying momentum, Kyomu applied additional downward force, crashing Guy to the ground. Bang! Quickly seizing a ninja knife from behind as Guy hit the ground, Kyomu unsheathed it. Kneeling on Might Guy's chest, he positioned the blade against Guy's neck. You've lost. Guy stared blankly at Kyomu towering over him, his eyes dimming, and his head turning away. I lost. Kyomu stood up, sheathing his knife and bending over, offering a hand. Need help? Guy turned his head, hesitated for a moment, and eventually took Kyomu's hand, allowing himself to be pulled up. Thank you. Standing up, Guy whispered his gratitude. No need. Aragami Kyomu shook his head. You're strong. This battle has been very enlightening for me. Really? The dull gaze in Guy's eyes suddenly brightened. You acknowledge my strength? Of course. You're a talented opponent, Kyomu gestured. I believe that among my future formidable opponents, you'll definitely have your place. Keep it up. Biting his lip, Guy looked at Kyomu's encouraging gesture and his serious expression, feeling tears welling up. Is this what youth is all about? And he really wanted to spar with Kyomu again, no, many more times. On the path to youth, how could one do without worthy opponents? However, Kyomu didn't say much more to Guy. He turned around and ran away. The look in Guy's eyes just now was dangerous. Damn, maybe I overacted. Chapter 16. Unconsciously, Aragami Kyomu had attracted the attention of the top 3 men in the future ninja world. The masked man, Uchiha Obito, the one who could hold his own against anyone, Hitaki Kakashi, and the almost endgame hero, Might Guy. Kyomu, it seems you've made a new friend again. Me and Guy can't be considered friends yet, just that I appreciate him. Kyomu smiled slightly, but if Guy wants to be friends with us, I won't refuse. Kakashi nodded, I somewhat agree with your previous point. In terms of taijutsu, Might Guy indeed has extraordinary talent and can be a potential opponent. Glancing at Guy, who was watching from a distance but hesitant to approach, Kyomu said, I feel he's not good at socializing, though. It might be tiring to be friends with him. It will get better in the future. Kyomu didn't delve too deep, but after it gets better, he might become a bit troublesome. Anyway, who can predict the future? Kakashi nodded without dwelling further on the topic of Guy. I just checked. Your skills are quite good, but to surpass me, you still lack a bit of meaning. Kakashi tilted his head slightly, how about considering changing the stakes? Haha, Kakashi seems to be afraid. Obito suddenly jumped in, seemingly ready to turn it into a Kyomu is better argument. I knew Kyomu is stronger than you. Why not just admit defeat now? It's not embarrassing at all. Kakashi rolled his eyes, not saying much, but instead, he raised the note in his hand, my second round opponent is a certain Uchiha. Do you want to admit defeat in advance? Kakashi, you really think I'm afraid of you? Obito instantly got irritated, when you were skipping class, I was working hard, and I've learned several tricks. Such as? I've mastered a fire release jutsu. Obito had a confident expression, just give me a chance to use ninjutsu, and you'll undoubtedly lose. Kyomu ignored their banter and went straight to the point, Kakashi, what if there's no opportunity to use ninjutsu? Obito opened his mouth, his face slowly turning red. Hey, Kyomu, whose side are you on? He's obviously on his own side, Kakashi smirked, he just wants to exchange a few words with whoever he catches. No hope for him. With that, Kakashi waved his hand, alright, let's stop the pre-exam chat. It's my turn soon. Kyomu nodded, watching Kakashi leave the circle, and gave Obito a look that said, good luck. Honestly, Obito's talent wasn't bad, just a bit late in blooming, with slightly lower academic performance. But the aura of being an Uchiha added a lot of pressure. Bearing the Uchiha name meant being a genius or mediocre, proud or shameful. Going by Kakashi's performance, he was undoubtedly the latter among the Uchiha clan. And among his peers, there was the freak Kakashi who always suppressed him, making Uchiha Obito unable to turn the tables. Now, with the addition of Kyomu, Obito's situation became even more difficult. For an Uchiha who couldn't secure the top spot, it was hard not to be mocked. After all, there were so many Uchiha geniuses that people were numb to them. However, if there was an Uchiha who was neither outstanding nor subpar among peers, naturally, it would become a topic of discussion and ridicule. It can be said that fame has its advantages, but also its drawbacks. Without making people wait too long, the second public confrontation between Hitaki Kakashi and Uchiha Obito finally began, naturally drawing everyone's attention. Kyomu was no exception. Watching the back and forth attacks between the two, Kyomu couldn't help but nod. Obito had worked hard during this period and could now hold his own against Kakashi. But obviously, Kakashi still had an absolute advantage against Obito. Can't said to be overwhelming, but defeating Obito wasn't difficult for him. And as Kyomu had mentioned, under Kakashi's close-range combat, Obito had no chance to use ninjutsu. Did he really think hand seals took no time? Kakashi understood very well, he didn't let Obito create distance and didn't give him time to perform hand seals. The two fought for more than a dozen rounds, exchanging only taijutsu moves, with no room for ninjutsu. The outcome was not surprising, Obito was defeated. Congratulations, Kakashi, Kyomu greeted as Kakashi approached, once again defeating your lifelong rival, Obito. I don't recognize him as it. Hitaki Kakashi shook his head. Hey, Kakashi, don't think you can beat me twice and then win a third time. Obito shouted, when I was skipping class, I worked hard, and I've learned several powerful jutsu. Oh. Kakashi crossed his arms, appearing indifferent, has no one told you that without a solid foundation, all lofty ideals are just castles in the air? I don't need you to manage me. Just know that the day I open my eyes is the day I defeat you. Hearing Obito once again pinning his hopes on the Sharingan, Kakashi smirked without saying much. In this regard, Kakashi didn't want to discuss it further with Obito. After all, he was an Uchiha, and the Sharingan was everything. Seeing Kakashi no longer interested, Obito also quieted down, not planning to pursue the matter further. The Sharingan was indeed Uchiha's reliance, but constantly talking about it could lead to having no friends. Although Kakashi teased a bit, he was one of the best choices as a good friend. But compared to Kyomu, Obito obviously preferred to be friends with the latter. Kyomu, I might not be able to spar with you later. If your strength is lacking, just admit it. It sounds so pitiful, otherwise, people might think you won, or I lost. Hitaki Kakashi couldn't resist teasing. Shut up. I didn't mean to talk to you. Seeing the two about to argue again, Kyomu quickly stepped forward as a peacemaker. Alright, isn't it better to have another fight after school? Humph. Kakashi and Obito both turned their heads away, ignoring each other. Smiling, Kyomu patted Obito on the shoulder, let's spar after school. I'm a bit regretful I didn't encounter you in the exam. Obito got excited, deal. No backing out. No backing out. Kyomu, Kakashi, are you two ready? At this moment, Shozo's deep and penetrating voice came, prepare, it's your turn soon. Kyomu and Kakashi looked at each other, sensing the fighting spirit in each other's eyes. This moment had finally arrived. Adjusting their clothes, the two walked slowly to the center of the field under the gaze of everyone, standing 3 meters apart. Kyomu, please enlighten me. Kakashi, please enlighten me. Clang. The ninja knives on their backs were unsheathed simultaneously, and their steps slightly accelerated. The two petite figures, almost leaving after images, collided fiercely. Chapter 17. Clang. Sparks flew as Kyomu and Kakashi passed each other. Such formidable strength! Both of them exclaimed in their hearts. The desire for victory surged, and their attacks became fiercer and more ruthless than before. Facing such an opponent, it would be a major regret in life if one couldn't unleash their full abilities in a thrilling battle. Simultaneously, the two of them reached for their ninja tool pouches as they crossed paths, and in the blink of an eye, some kunai and shuriken were held between their left fingertips. Swish, swish, swish. They simultaneously hurled their kunai and shuriken, creating mysterious and unpredictable arcs, all aiming at vital points on each other's bodies. Ding, ding, ding. Kunai and shuriken clashed in the air, some knocked aside to the ground, others altering their original trajectories mid-flight. Suddenly, Kakashi's eyes narrowed, sensing a danger that made the hairs on his back stand. A chilling feeling spread through his body. Watching from the sidelines, Shozo also noticed everything in the first moment. In the recent throwing technique exchange, Kyomu clearly outperformed Kakashi. Kyomu's throwing technique is similar to the Uchiha style, though it relies on simple collisions between ninja tools, resulting in rough changes to their flight paths and attack angles. However, except for the Uchiha with the awakened Sharingan or more powerful ninja, no one can gain an advantage in a throwing technique duel with Kyomu. Even I, in terms of throwing technique, can't compete with Kyomu. Glancing at Kakashi, Shozo couldn't help but worry for him. Kyomu was suppressing Kakashi in the recent exchange, and those shuriken altering their trajectories and attack angles were closing in on Kakashi's defensive blind spots, posing a not insignificant. In an instant, Shozo tensed his muscles, ready to intervene and rescue Kakashi at any moment. However, Kakashi's subsequent response impressed Shozo, and he abandoned the preparedness for an active rescue. Kakashi executed several agile backflips, dodging the shuriken that came from behind. Additionally, he wielded a short ninja blade adeptly, deflecting the shuriken attacking from both sides. Taking advantage of the backflip to defend, Kakashi also increased the distance between him and Kyomu. A brilliant defensive strategy. Shozo praised in his mind. Even though Kakashi temporarily relinquished the initiative in the attack due to defense, because he timely increased the distance between him and Kyomu, he didn't fall into Kyomu's attack rhythm. With proper adjustments, they are still on the same starting line. Even if Kakashi falls behind in the throwing technique competition, he still has a chance to turn the tables. As Shozo had predicted, Kakashi's dual-purpose approach disrupted Kyomu's planned offensive strategy. At this moment, seeing Kyomu land steadily, crouching with a single knife held in one hand, another hand behind his back, vigilantly and earnestly watching Kakashi, Kyomu couldn't help but sigh. Kakashi, you truly deserve your reputation. Such excellent combat reactions and tactical intelligence. If you can't dominate your generation, that would be strange. Excitement tightened the grip on Kyomu's knife as he, with a trembling yet calm heart, swiftly moved forward. Today, he must fight with all his might. Watching Kyomu charge again, Kakashi's eyes gleamed with determination. This was the feeling he sought, this was the opponent he had been anticipating. The fighting spirit in the hearts of geniuses could only be ignited by fellow geniuses. Clearly, both of them were ignited by each other's recent performance, sparking the most primitive fighting spirit. This battle, they would win. Clang, clang, clang. The frequent clashes of their blades increased in speed, almost creating a dizzying array of afterimages. Is this something achievable within the first month of enrollment like us? I don't know, but I'd rather believe this isn't true. Is the gap really that significant? I can't see the movements of their swordplay clearly, nor can I predict their next attack trajectory. Perhaps, this is a genius. How can ordinary people like us understand, let alone empathize with it? Amidst the chattering around, silence soon enveloped the surroundings, creating an eerie atmosphere. No matter how much was said, it couldn't change reality. It was better to appreciate this spectacular duel between two geniuses. Clang, clang, clang. Kyomu and Kakashi exchanged dozens of moves, and the battle reached an intense state. Kakashi finally understood what Kyomu referred to as the combination style, and Kyomu also learned the intricate and ruthless nature of Hitaki's sword art. If Kyomu's so-called combination style is this battle-hardened continuous combo, then our clan's Hitaki swordsmanship might be like a farmer harvesting rice. Such a thought crossed Kakashi's mind, but it didn't distract him. On the contrary, his offensive techniques became even more varied, and the use of Hatake swordsmanship, combining with the short sword in his hand, was smoother and more proficient. Hatake Sakumo, who earned the title of Leaf's White Fang, truly has extraordinary skills. Kyomu gritted his teeth. I have been studying under over 100 different Leaf shinobi, even Jonin, and blending their techniques together, he still managed to suppress me. Ding, ding, ding. While the battle continued, it became apparent that Kakashi's flowing Hatake swordsmanship was forcing Kyomu into a steady retreat. The initial offensive had transformed into a defensive counterattack. It was evident that in terms of the upper limit, Hatake swordsmanship had the upper hand. In a simple swordplay comparison, Kyomu will lose in the next 50 moves. Shozo predicted the current situation. Hatake swordsmanship, one of Lord Sakumo's pillars shaking the shinobi world, is beyond Kyomu's battle-hardened swordsmanship. However, I see too many shadows of people in Kyomu's swordsmanship from the techniques he used. This shouldn't be. Despite Shozo's confusion, Kyomu's performance in swordsmanship was stunning. However, Kakashi appeared to be stronger, and as Shozo had expected, Kyomu was already on the verge of defeat. Clang! Barely holding off Kakashi's second strike from a tricky angle, Kyomu's forehead broke into a sweat. The short and sharp blade was intentional, the small blade clearly suited Hatake swordsmanship. While the saying "the longer, the stronger" held true, taking an unconventional route was also a shortcut. Hatake swordsmanship abandoned room for error and pushed combat techniques to the extreme. In close quarters combat or ambush scenarios, combining Hatake swordsmanship with a short blade slightly longer than a dagger could unleash terrifying power. However, Kyomu couldn't exploit the weaknesses of Hatake swordsmanship. Instead, he found himself being pushed back by the smooth and skilled techniques of Kakashi. That upcoming strike from Kakashi, I definitely can't block it. Kyomu made a decisive decision. Since that's the case, I'll have to use another method. Barely fending off what seemed to be Kakashi's assured second strike, Kyomu made a peculiar eye contact with him. Genjutsu, placebo technique. A simple C-rank illusion that used chakra to interfere with an enemy's vision. By manipulating chakra on the cornea, an illusion that could convincingly replace what the enemy saw with what the caster desired could be created. For a ninja who had learned genjutsu knowledge from the system, it was easy to discern and dispel. An experienced ninja could probably dispel it in the blink of an eye. However, Kakashi was only 4 years old, and even with his genius, he was far from an experienced ninja. Realizing he was under a genjutsu, Kakashi's offensive rhythm visibly hesitated. Although he still swung the blade he was confident would land a decisive blow, he hesitated. Seizing this momentary hesitation from Kakashi, Kyomu took the opportunity to withdraw while forming hand seals. Kakashi's last strike was clearly a sure win, but Shozo was surprised and puzzled. Genjutsu? Did Kyomu use genjutsu? Wait a minute. The order of Kyomu's hand seals. Fire release, Dragon Flame Jutsu. Snake, Dragon, Rabbit, Tiger. Kyomu swiftly completed the hand seals in less than a second. At this point, Kakashi had already dispelled the genjutsu Kyomu had cast on him, taking just a bit over a second. Even such a small time difference in a tense and fierce battle was quite deadly. The previous victory was nullified, and what awaited was a decisive counterattack from the opponent. Although for Kakashi, the fire release jutsu that Kyomu was about to use wasn't a fatal move, being caught off guard was inevitable. Whoosh! A straight line of fire shot toward Hatake Kakashi, and even from a distance, he felt the scorching heat. But Kakashi's reaction was fast. Rolling abruptly on the ground, although his posture was awkward, the Dragon Flame Jutsu, which could only attack in a straight line and couldn't change direction, was evaded by Hatake Kakashi. Raising his head abruptly, Hatake Kakashi looked at Kyomu with a changed expression. You really hit it well. He gritted his teeth. Genjutsu, fire release. Don't you think it's a bit too early to use them now? But, don't underestimate me, Kyomu. Twirling a beautiful knife flower with his right hand, Hatake Kakashi sheathed the blade, rapidly moving toward Kyomu. Simultaneously, his hands were forming seals at an astonishing speed. Fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu. These two kids! Shozo exclaimed, surprised and helpless. They're only 4 years old, yet they've turned their first month of school exams into a Chunin selection exam. This is truly Although Kyomu and Kakashi's strength wasn't on the level of Chunin, the combination of Taijutsu, Genjutsu, and Ninjutsu showcased in their battle had already surpassed the majority of Genin, approaching the Chunin level. Whether it's a blessing or a curse to be their teacher, I'm not sure. Muttering to himself, Shozo watched the two entering version 2.0 of their combat, suddenly becoming 100% focused. In a comprehensive clash of ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu, a slight mistake could lead to death. Chapter 18. At the age of 4, Kakashi didn't possess a vast array of ninjutsus. While Kyomu managed to learn quite a few ninjutsu through stealth, he was constrained by his chakra levels and the need for consistent mental training. He could only use a handful. However, the significance of these limitations depended on the context and the individuals being compared. Take Obito, for instance. At this moment, his mouth was wide open, as if it could fit a fist. How is this possible? How can this be? He roared in disbelief. Both of those who are my age can already use ninjutsu in battle. Compared to them, I seem like a complete waste. Can I really catch up with them once I open my eyes? Obito fell into self-doubt, while his classmates around him entered a collective state of speechlessness. Ninjutsu, for them, was an elusive term. It was as if their classmates were still in the Stone Age, while Aragami Kyomu and Kakashi Hatake had already entered the era of firearms. There was no comparison, no basis for any comparison. What other words could express their current feelings other than astonishment? A clown is actually me? Kyomu, punished for standing outside the classroom, and Hatake, skipping classes for almost a month, should have been an opening for criticism. However, reality slapped everyone in the face. Why explain? Let's just look at the results. Do we really need to listen to the knowledge taught in ninja school? We are just a joke. No, that doesn't include me. From the beginning, I knew that both Kyomu and Kakashi are geniuses that are hard to match. The only difference is who is a bit more of a genius between the two. Yeah, that's right. I never thought Kyomu and Kakashi had any issues from the start. Geniuses can't be judged by common sense. Have you forgotten? I said it back then that Kyomu and Kakashi definitely have their own strengths. Look, I was right, wasn't I? At this moment, the direction of public opinion completely flipped. Everyone became the person who supported Kyomu and Kakashi from the beginning, as if they had never said a bad word about them. Even though the reality was not true, with the conclusion in hand, who cared about the process? When Kyomu and Kakashi, in comparison to others, had an overwhelming advantage, admiration, envy, and jealousy couldn't even rise. Unconsciously, the two became the ultimate goal in everyone's eyes. In just 4 years, they had almost completed the path that most lower-ranked ninjas would take throughout their lives. And in the field, except for Shozo, no one could understand the details and strategies of the battle between Kyomu and Kakashi. Even Shozo, at this moment, was already sweating. If I were to face these two kids and go all out, I might actually be killed by them. It's even possible that I can't even trade one for one. Do they have to be this terrifying? Ignoring Shozo's self-doubt for now, Kyomu and Kakashi were now on the verge of exhaustion. Yes, exhaustion. In the comprehensive confrontation of ninjutsu, apart from the risks, in a situation where the strengths were evenly matched, it became a test of endurance and willpower. At their current age, the chakra in their bodies was quite limited. Just 1 or 2 C-rank ninjutsu could almost drain both of them. Bang! Kyomu landed a punch on Kakashi's face. Thunk! Kakashi retaliated with a kick, hitting Kyomu's stomach. Spit! Kakashi Hatake spat out a mouthful of blood. No strength left, Kyomu, just collapse already. Roaring, as if cheering himself on, Kakashi was squeezing out the last bit of strength from his body. Ha, you're thinking too much. Kyomu endured the twisting pain in his abdomen. Before you admit defeat or I knock you down, you don't need to think about this. Clang, Kyomu landed 2 consecutive punches. One was blocked by Kakashi, and the other broke through the defense, landing on Kakashi's shoulder. Kakashi immediately retaliated, swaying his body, twisting his waist, and a powerful punch landed on Kyomu's face. Next, the two no longer had the intention to dodge, they simply exchanged blows, testing who could endure longer. Did you forget to eat? Kyomu kicked Kakashi, making him stagger. I think it's you. And you're about to give in, right? Getting up, Kakashi pounced, embracing Kyomu's waist, and tackled him to the ground. Raising his fist, Kakashi Hatake landed a punch on Kyomu's face. But before he could revel in his victory, Kyomu exerted force with his waist, flipping Kakashi over and pinning him beneath. "Isn't you, Kakashi?" 2 consecutive punches hit Kakashi's face, but the strength in Kyomu's body visibly diminished. "Haha, still talking tough." Kakashi, not knowing whom he was addressing, was in a similar state. Just a while ago, a C-rank fireball technique and a C-rank lightning release ninjutsu had drained him. Aragami Kyomu fared a bit better, but a C-rank genjutsu, coupled with 2 C-rank fire release techniques, had severely depleted his chakra reserves and consumed a considerable amount of stamina. Both being wanderers, the two had lost their earlier dignity and turned into children fighting. Ignoring Kyomu and Kakashi's strained situation, Shozo couldn't help but tug at the corners of his mouth. These two kids have an outrageous desire for victory. He could see that their current battle relied solely on willpower. The seemingly heavy punches didn't have much impact, mostly just scratching the surface. Lying on the ground side by side, Kyomu and Kakashi, who had just stabilized themselves, turned their heads simultaneously, and their voices rang out in unison. "I won't be friends with someone whose strength and mouth are both lacking. I won't be friends with someone whose mouth stinks and knows nothing." Kyomu and Kakashi retorted simultaneously, making Shozo burst into louder laughter. At this moment, the gazes of Uchiha Obito and Might Guy also fell on Kyomu and Kakashi. They both had a common thought in their hearts. Is this what bonds are? Chapter 19. Chapter 19, Shoulder to Shoulder. In the 27th class of the Ninja Academy, Kyomu and Kakashi became bona fide geniuses, jokingly referred to as the Genius Twin Stars. However, it was not without controversy. Some believed that Kakashi's potential was higher than Kyomu's. Even though he slightly lagged behind Kyomu in this exam, he would eventually catch up and surpass him. This viewpoint had both supporters and opponents. Supporters of Kyomu believed that being ahead once meant staying ahead, and although the gap was small at the moment, it would widen in the future. As for these two different viewpoints, the students were in an uproar, and both Kyomu and Kakashi were surrounded by supporters. The situation remained the same as before. Most of the girls supported Kakashi. They couldn't resist the allure of a boy who was both aloof and a genius, and thus, fan clubs emerged in support of him. On the other hand, most of the supporters of Kyomu were boys who, first and foremost, disliked Kakashi because the girls liked him, and secondly, genuinely supported Kyomu from the bottom of their hearts. It could only be said that Kyomu's fanbase was extremely complicated and not yet ready for cultivation. "You girls chattering away are so annoying." Kakashi, surrounded by girls, finally exploded, "I like eating sari and flavored eggplants. I don't have any crushes. I don't want to train with you, let alone go out to play with you alone. Are you satisfied? Can you leave now?" With one sweeping reply to all the questions and forcefully driving away all the girls, Kakashi's surroundings finally quieted down. As a result, the number of people around Kyomu also decreased by more than half. After all, since the girls they cared about had left, continuing to stay with Kyomu was meaningless. They had to rush to comfort Kakashi or even speak ill of him. This might give them a chance. "Girls aren't all annoying," Kyomu said inexplicably, "wait until you're 18, and you'll know the good things about girls." "No way, absolutely not." Kakashi denied firmly, "Whiny crybabies who always talk about meaningless topics, who cares about their good qualities?" "Perhaps," Kyomu shrugged, "but I'm sure you'll change your mind in the future." "Never. Not gonna happen." Seeing Kakashi still insisting on his views, Kyomu didn't say much more, just hoping that when Kakashi brought out Ika Ika Paradise in the future, he would remember his childhood promise. "All right, Kakashi, there's no one around now. It's time to fulfill your promise." Kyomu brought up the old matter again, and Kakashi suddenly fell silent, blushing and stammering without a response. "What's wrong? Are you going to break the promise?" "Who's breaking the promise?" Kakashi suddenly raised his head, "It's just not possible now. It has to be after school. Are you afraid that with your swollen nose and bruised face, along with your ugly face under the mask, it will cause me emotional trauma?" Kyomu teased, "I really should thank you, Kakashi." Kakashi turned away without responding. No matter what Kyomu said, he had to wait until after school, when there were no other people around, to show Kyomu. Seeing Kakashi determined not to budge, Kyomu didn't push too hard, and stopped talking after a couple more words. At this moment, Shozo walked over, holding 2 ice packs in his hands. He tossed one to each of them, put it on your bruises. It'll prevent them from swelling too much later. Thank you, sensei. Kyomu and Kakashi thanked him in unison, then grimaced as they felt the icy sensation on their bruises. Seeing them both in this state, Shozo couldn't help but laugh. You guys insist on fighting until you're exhausted every time. Is victory really that important? Of course it is. Kakashi's gaze was firm and serious. Although I lost, I cannot lose in spirit. I don't have any other thoughts. I just think it's comfortable to beat Kakashi. Naturally, I give it my all. Kyomu chimed in. You too? Shozo shook his head with a smile. Actually, it's quite good. When I was your age, as a teacher, I also yearned for opponents with the kind of relationship you two have. It's just a pity. He placed his hands on Kyomu and Kakashi's shoulders, patting them. Work hard and support each other. Your future is promising. Humph, I don't want that. I'm not familiar with Kyomu. Kakashi Hatake became haughty. Same here. There's nothing for me to support Kakashi with. Seeing the two stubbornly denying it, Shozo couldn't help but smile again, shaking his head before turning away. As Shozo left, there was a moment of awkwardness between Kyomu and Kakashi, but it quickly dissipated. Kakashi Hatake was the first to extend an invitation. School will be over soon. Do you want to train with me? You want to fight again? Kyomu pressed the ice pack against his face. I didn't realize you had a masochistic streak. If we fight again, I'll definitely win. Kakashi smirked, but what I mean is, we can train together and complement each other's weaknesses. You want to learn my throwing technique? Kyomu understood immediately. That's fine, but, how about tomorrow? Why tomorrow? Kakashi frowned. It's better to strike while the iron is hot today. We'll make faster progress. Because I'm going to sleep and rest at the public training ground today. You. Kakashi suddenly faltered in his speech. Hey, don't think that just because you beat me once, you can always win. Obviously, Kakashi still didn't understand Kyomu's lazy behavior. He might admit that Kyomu had some special talent, but he would never think that slacking off could make one stronger. It's the last day, and I wasted almost a whole day. After school, I have to make up for it. Kyomu shook his head. I told you when school started, I like to slack off, and once I start, it's for a month. I have to stick to it. Humph, suit yourself. Do you really think I want to learn? Kakashi became arrogant. Let's see how it goes. In a few days, my throwing technique will surpass yours. I believe you have the talent for it, but on the other hand, although we can't train together today, we must fulfill our bet today. Got it? Kakashi's tone was not pleasant. When I say after school, it's after school. I won't go back on my word. Only then did Kyomu nod in satisfaction, saying nothing more, and focusing on removing the swelling from his face with the ice pack in his hand. It had to be said that the human physique in the world of Naruto was much stronger than in the previous world. In less than 2 hours, the swelling on Kyomu's face had mostly disappeared, except for some bruising. Kakashi's recovery was similar, neither too fast nor too slow compared to Kyomu. As the school bell rang, Kyomu threw away the disposable ice pack in his hand into the trash can and ran outside the classroom, arm in arm with Kakashi. Arm in arm, a symbol of good buddies. But Kakashi was somewhat unaccustomed to it. Aragami Kyomu didn't think much about it, just afraid that Kakashi would take the opportunity to escape and not fulfill their promise. With Kakashi's slightly villainous and somewhat roguelike attributes, breaking a promise was entirely within his capabilities. Watching the two figures go further away, Rin became curious. Obito, should we follow them and take a look? Of course, they're both running so fast, they seem to have forgotten about our agreement. Subconsciously taking Rin's hand, Obito followed them. Chapter 20. For boys or young men, in some cases, it's normal to have a friendly arm around the shoulder, a sign of a good relationship. Kakashi was initially uncomfortable with it, but he soon appreciated it. After leaving school, he naturally accepted Kyomu's friendly gesture of hooking arms. Kakashi, why do you wear a mask? Kyomu asked a question that had been lingering in his heart. In his previous life, there were various speculations about Kakashi's mask, and at a glance, they all made sense. But where was the reliable answer from the main character? Kakashi thought for a moment, then answered Kyomu's question seriously. He first denied the idea of liking to act cool. Do you think I wear a mask to look cool? Wrong, that's completely off the mark. My biggest dream is to become a great ninja like my father, so I naturally have to demand strict discipline from myself since childhood. Besides combat, the main tasks of a ninja include infiltration, assassination, and sabotage. Wearing a mask can reduce the slight sound I make when breathing, making it more suitable for infiltration. And since others don't know your true appearance, it's easier for you to transform and infiltrate, minimizing the risk of exposure. Listening to Kakashi's explanation, Kyomu believed him, but he couldn't resist teasing him a bit. Are you deliberately ignoring your appearance problem? Kyomu smirked. Is it possible that you're ugly, and all those were just excuses you made up? Your real purpose? You're the ugly one. Kakashi glared at Kyomu with a dead fish eye, then quickly pulled down his mask and put it back on. Who's ugly? Even with just a glance, Kyomu instantly memorized and saw Kakashi's appearance clearly. He could only say it was a very handsome face, belonging to the delicate and charming type. Aren't you too girly? But Kyomu couldn't admit it. Are you worried that with this delicate face, you won't have enough intimidation when carrying out missions in the future, so you thought of wearing a mask? Shut up! Kakashi's forehead bulged with veins, angrily punching Kyomu in the ribs. Nonsense, I wear a mask to become a better ninja, not for the malicious speculation you're making. Kyomu rubbed his side. Kakashi's punch did hurt quite a bit. Alright. But if I don't give you a hard time, how can we call ourselves friends? Don't you dare say. Kakashi's face flushed slightly. If you continue, we won't be friends anymore. The words were intense, but Kakashi softened again. And don't talk about my appearance to others. I won't. Kyomu quickly assured, if I do, the girls in the class will go crazy. Imagining that scene, Kakashi couldn't help but shiver. It would be terrifying. Remember what you said. If you talk, it won't end well for you. Don't worry, I'm as silent as a grave. I won't mention what you look like to anyone. Kakashi relaxed, gradually thinking about leaving. Since he had fulfilled the bet with Kyomu, he needed to re-enter intense training. Next time he competes with Kyomu, he must win back. I'm leaving now. The training task set for today hasn't been completed yet. Kakashi freed himself from Kyomu's arm and, as he left, reminded, don't slack off either. Be careful not to let me catch up and beat you up. It's impossible in this lifetime. Kyomu shook his head and waved his hand, go on, I'm also going to the public training ground for a round. From then on, the two parted ways. At this time, Rin and Obito caught up, obviously having run quite a bit of distance. Is that it? Rin couldn't help but stomp her foot, feeling very annoyed. I haven't even seen Kakashi's face yet. Kyomu glanced at Rin. Rin, do you know something? Just accidentally overheard the bet between you and Kakashi. Kakashi didn't speak, but he warned Kyomu with his eyes, strictly forbidding him from revealing his appearance. What bet? Obito scratched his head. Kyomu, what did you and Kakashi bet on? It's so mysterious. Turning to look at Obito, Kyomu shook his head without saying anything, then quickly changed the subject. Obito, it seems that training together today won't work. What about tomorrow? Oh, I see. Obito's eyes showed a hint of disappointment. Then it's tomorrow. I believe you must be busy today. I am indeed busy. Kyomu nodded. After all, it's the last day, so I have to make the most of it. What do you mean by the last day? Obito scratched his head, showing his confusion. It's nothing, anyway, just work hard. Of course. Obito nodded. I will catch up with you and Kakashi, and eventually surpass you both. I'll be waiting for that day. Kyomu waved his hand. So, bye, see you tomorrow. Goodbye. After exchanging greetings, Kyomu turned and left, heading straight for the public training ground he used to frequent. At this moment, Obito finally realized, can it be that Kyomu is going to the training ground to sleep again? It's possible. Rin wore a puzzled expression. In this regard, Kyomu behaves very strangely. I can't understand it anyway. I also think. Obito scratched his head again. Maybe this is Kyomu's unique way of training, who knows? I'd rather believe that Kyomu's talent is extraordinary, rather than believe that sleeping can create such a big gap with peers. I don't know, but it's not impossible. Obito nodded, keeping this suspicion in his mind, deciding to find out later. At the same time, Kakashi, who had already arrived at his exclusive training ground, was also pondering this question. Common sense told him that Kyomu must be hiding something, otherwise, his behavior wouldn't be so strange. As the moon rose, Kakashi couldn't suppress his curiosity anymore. No, I have to go to Kyomu's house and see. I must figure out his specific training situation. It's common to know yourself and the enemy to win every battle. Kakashi's thoughts were normal, especially since he had lost to Kyomu during the monthly exam, prompting him to want to uncover the mystery about him. And there was someone else who shared the same idea as Kakashi, Obito. I can't sleep, not at all. Obito jumped out of bed. I have to go to Kyomu's house and see, I have to figure out how Kyomu did all this. If I don't understand, how can I surpass him and eventually defeat him? Dressed, Obito sneaked out of his home courtyard, leaving the Uchiha compound and heading straight for Kyomu's residence. Kakashi? You. Hush. Near Kyomu's residence, Obito and Kakashi ran into each other. How did you? Don't talk, you do your thing, I'll do mine, don't alert anyone. Obito nodded and, matching Kakashi's pace, they both headed towards Kyomu's home. You. Both exclaimed simultaneously but immediately understood, not saying more. After a while, two secretive figures climbed onto the wall of Kyomu's courtyard, stretching their necks to peek inside. In Kyomu's house, the lights were still on. How could a lazy person stay up late? Something was fishy. Until Kyomu, fully armed and sweating, began to exercise vigorously in the courtyard, Kakashi and Obito exchanged glances, seeing the determination in each other's eyes. Acting lazy during the day, then training hard at night? Aragami Kyomu, you deserve to die. Chapter 21. If being lazy could make one stronger, Aragami Kyomu wouldn't have stayed up all night pouring sweat. However, the passive skill King of Nonchalance only lasted for 1 month, automatically disappearing after midnight today, replaced by another passive skill. Passive skill, Reward of Diligence. Skill description: during the skill's duration, maximum action power, maximum body recovery speed, maximum learning ability, and maximum comprehension ability are all boosted. Note: this passive skill characteristic can only be triggered in a state of effort. Skill duration: 30 days. Message: every effort you make will be rewarded. Persevere, and your future achievements will be as vast as the stars and the sea. T/N, for the interested, Reward of Diligence is a popular sermon about hard work. With this passive skill at hand, being lazy had become a thing of the past. Effort would be Aragami Kyomu's theme for the next month. Well, it's not bad. Effort brings rewards, it's just a different way to get stronger. The difference isn't that big, Kyomu comforted himself. Moreover, slacking off for a month, then working hard for another month, balances out perfectly, neither losing nor gaining. In addition, with the help of the Reward of Diligence passive skill, Kyomu could thoroughly study all the combat abilities, combat styles, and combat techniques he had secretly learned over the past month, elevating his strength to a higher level. However, Kyomu. Hatake jumped off the wall first, quickly approaching Kyomu's side. Is this what you call slacking off? Is this what you call being inherently lazy? Why are you? Kyomu looked at the sudden appearance of Kakashi, full of confusion. Why are you coming to my house instead of sleeping? At the same time, Obito also flipped down from the wall, standing alongside Kakashi, an unusual alliance. Kyomu, I've misjudged you. I never thought you were so scheming. Obito stared at Aragami Kyomu. The way you usually behave, and the effort you put in behind our backs, were you trying to deceive Kakashi and me? It could only be said that Kakashi and Obito had truly misunderstood. Kyomu was not the kind of person who would discourage others with words while secretly working hard behind their backs. No, have you two misunderstood something? Impossible. Kakashi and Obito said in unison. If you hadn't come today, we wouldn't have known the true reason for your improvement. Since you believe what you saw, then I won't explain further. Kyomu shrugged. I admit it, I am the person you imagined. You'll end up with no friends doing this, Kakashi sighed. Such behavior must be condemned. Kyomu clasped his hands together, apologizing sincerely. I won't do it again. At least for the next month, you'll see an Kyomu who is extremely disciplined, full of execution, and working hard every day. Same old rhetoric, hey. Obito rolled his eyes, then turned his eyes. Where's the credibility in that? Unless, you promise to train with me in the future, otherwise, we won't let this matter go. Alright, alright. How about training together for a month? Why another month? Kakashi Hatake was curious. I have a special attachment to the 30 days of a month, can't explain it. Kyomu put on a smug look. Perhaps, with my talent, 1 month of effort is enough. TCH. Kakashi and Obito scoffed, dragging their words. Believing you would be a ghost. Up to you. Kyomu shrugged, extending an invitation to them. Want to join me? Obito looked at the shuriken Kyomu handed over and thought for a moment before accepting it. I can, but I can only accompany you for an hour. What about you, Kakashi? Kyomu turned to Kakashi. I'm about the same. After all, it's almost a little past midnight now, and I need to reserve some rest time. Kids don't need that much sleep. Only those who don't want to become great ninjas are so lazy. Hearing Kyomu's words, Kakashi and Obito rolled their eyes simultaneously, thinking that this guy in front of them didn't say such things during the day. What a weird quirk. I don't want to deal with you. Me neither. Both of them gave Kyomu disdainful looks, but their actions betrayed them. Being able to train with Kyomu was something both of them had been craving. You talk tough, Kyomu muttered softly, come on, let's practice throwing techniques first, then swordsmanship, and finally go through ninjutsu again. Before going to school, let's do some physical training. Isn't that a bit harsh? Kakashi couldn't help but click his tongue. Did you train like this before? Aren't you afraid of overtraining yourself? Your effort will not be in vain. Even geniuses need to work hard, otherwise, what's the difference between them and ordinary people? You were almost like an ordinary person in the previous month, just sneaking around at night. Obito couldn't help but tease. Now that I and Kakashi have exposed the truth, you're not pretending anymore, right? No more pretending, no more pretending, Kyomu flicked the shuriken between his fingertips. Enough chit-chat, do you want to learn or not? We want to learn, of course. Kakashi and Obito nodded in unison. In that case, let's get started. Kyomu nodded. I'll explain the specific operational techniques first, and the rest will be up to your practice. Kakashi and Obito immediately became serious, listening carefully to Kyomu's explanation of the throwing techniques he understood. Time passed quickly, an hour was not nearly enough, and it slipped away in the blink of an eye. Why haven't you left yet? Kyomu frowned, looking at Kakashi and Obito. Didn't we agree on just 1 hour? Isn't there still swordsmanship? Kakashi pretended not to understand. I noticed many flaws in the swordsmanship you used earlier. Do you want? Of course. Kyomu interrupted. I brought my own. Kakashi took out his own short sword from his ninja tool pouch and waved it at Aragami Kyomu. Come on, let's continue our unfinished battle from earlier. Be careful. Kyomu rushed forward with his sword, colliding with Kakashi, who was also holding a short sword. The sharp glints of the blades flashed frequently at this moment. Obito, watching from the side, was fascinated, unable to help but imitate the movements of the two with his own kunao. Clang! 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 The sound of blade collisions rang out frequently, and Kakashi's expression became increasingly serious. He suddenly realized that Kyomu's swordsmanship had improved since yesterday during the daytime, and he even felt that Kyomu's swordsmanship was steadily advancing during their sparring. Although the progress was slow, there was indeed progress. Such talent, it's truly amazing. Kakashi sighed inwardly, but at the same time, he tightened his resolve. He, Hatake Kakashi, was never inferior to anyone. He had to take this seriously. Undoubtedly, facing a Kakashi who was serious to the core, Kyomu still fell short in their swordsmanship duel. But this was not something to be discouraged about. Kakashi inherited the Hatake swordsmanship from his father, Hatake Sakumo, so Kyomu couldn't catch up in just 1 month. Take a break. Kyomu wiped the sweat from his forehead. We'll be training in ninjutsu later. Can you handle it? Glancing at Kyomu with a strange look, Kakashi wanted to keep up with the pace, but his actual condition couldn't support further training. The body is a ninja's capital, and Kakashi couldn't afford to overstrain himself just for a momentary victory or defeat. Shaking his head, I'm tired. I'm going home to sleep. What about you, Obito? M2. Obito beat a hasty retreat. I've been training since school ended. Continuing would risk problems. Looking somewhat concerned, he glanced at Kyomu. You should also take care. Don't overtrain. Don't worry about him. Kakashi turned around to leave. Even if you're out of your mind, Aragami Kyomu won't overtrain himself. Kakashi. Obito turned to chase after him. What do you mean by that? Just that. You are. As they heard the sound of the two bickering fading into the distance, Kyomu shook his head and smiled. He knew Kakashi was reminding him to be moderate. But with the reward of diligence, even if the ninja world exploded, Kyomu couldn't overtrain himself. Wasn't saying his body's recovery speed was at its maximum a joke? Even Uzumaki Naruto wouldn't dare to boast that his body's recovery speed was unparalleled in front of him. With that in mind, was Kyomu afraid of anything? No, train until you drop dead, that's the spirit. Charge. Chapter 22. Today, Shozo was very happy. His voice during class was louder, and there were even signs of extending the class time. Kyomu also seemed like a different person today. Not only was he spirited, but also full of vigor, as if his nonchalance had been completely replaced by diligence overnight. For a ninja teacher, or any type of teacher for that matter, this was the greatest reward. Which teacher wouldn't like a student who was both a genius and hardworking? Anyway, Shozo couldn't resist. Kyomu, come with me for a moment. During break time, Shozo called Kyomu to his office. I was surprised by your performance today. I hope you can continue to maintain it. Teacher, I will. Very good, the teacher also believes in you. Shozo didn't ask Kyomu about the reason for his change, but rather straightforwardly brought up another topic. Kyomu, I know you're a genius. Now, the course I'm teaching you is already familiar to you. The teacher doesn't want your talent to be wasted on such basic courses. The shortcomings of teaching at the ninja school were clear to Shozo. But it wasn't something he could change alone, nor was it possible to change. Although people weren't divided into classes, talent and family background were present. Leaving aside the descendants of ninja clans, even civilian students varied in talent and background. There were few people with ninja parents or exceptional talents like himself, while ordinary ninja students with ordinary backgrounds and talents were the mainstay of the ninja school. Therefore, taking care of these people became the main teaching policy of the ninja school, and naturally, the teaching progress could not be accelerated. And precisely because of this, the ninja school became a school for the enlightenment education of ninjas, and the teachers leading the teams after graduation were the real main force in ninja teaching. But Shozo just liked geniuses like Kyomu too much, so giving him special treatment became a matter of course. As for Kakashi, Shozo did think about it, but his father is Hitaki Sakumo, the white fang of the leaf, while Shozo was just a chunin. It would be embarrassing for him to step forward. Kyomu, you don't have to attend the self-study classes later. You can follow me to learn some more advanced ninja knowledge. Shozo's eyes were full of indulgence. Until I feel there's nothing more I can teach you, I can help you apply for early graduation. Moreover, I've been working at the ninja school for so many years. Even if I don't know many people, I can still help you find a good team leader after you graduate. Of course, this depends on the Hokage's thoughts, but teacher will definitely do his best. Kyomu was stunned by his words. He didn't expect Shozo to go this far for him. He bowed earnestly in thanks. Teacher Shozo, thank you for everything you've done for me. Haha, this is the only thing the teacher can do for you. Work hard and don't disappoint me. I will. Yeah, come with me. Shozo stood up. Let's go to the schoolyard. I'll teach you a simple sealing technique. Is it the string light formation? Kyomu asked instinctively. Do you know this introductory sealing technique? I heard about it when eavesdropping at the seniors' classroom door. Have you learned it? I only have a vague idea. Shozo nodded. Although sealing techniques are a branch of ninjutsu, their functions and usage are completely different. The string light formation, although simple, is the basis for learning advanced sealing techniques. With that, Shozo patted Kyomu's shoulder. Study hard. Many advanced sealing techniques still incorporate elements from the string light formation. Yes, teacher Shozo. Soon, Shozo led Kyomu to the schoolyard and began explaining the tricks of the string light formation and the intricate sealing techniques. Kyomu listened attentively, gradually deepening his understanding of sealing techniques. Of course, Shozo was also deeply involved. Teaching a genius student like Kyomu was simply enjoyable. At the end of the day, Shozo was the most tired. He not only had to teach other students in the class but also had to give special attention to Kyomu. Although tired, he was immersed in it. Naturally, Kyomu wouldn't let Shozo down. His progress in the string light formation was remarkable, mastering it completely in just one day, and fully memorizing and understanding the specific functions and application conditions of the sealing techniques contained within the string light formation. Overall, Kyomu had a fulfilling day today, not in vain at all. Of course, after school, Kyomu still needed to devote himself to intense self-training. And Kakashi, who had skipped class again, appeared very punctually at the entrance of the ninja school, intercepting Kyomu, who was chatting and laughing with Obito and Rin. "Coming with me? Then let's go." With a simple exchange, Kyomu and the three others became a group of 4, led by Kakashi, to the edge of the forest of death. "It's so remote here." Rin, being a girl, inevitably had some fear of the unknown. "What if there are wild beasts?" "Don't worry, Rin." Obito patted his chest. "No matter what beast it is, I can protect you. Make sure you can survive first," Kakashi joked, "and who knows, maybe you'll be the first to run when that time comes." Kakashi. Seeing the two about to start fighting within 20 minutes of meeting, Kyomu hurriedly intervened. Now, with a passive skill different from before. Every second he spent not training meant his progress would stagnate. "If you two want to argue, find another place. Don't disturb my training." "It's strange." Kakashi glanced at Kyomu's back and couldn't help murmuring. "It does sound familiar." More and more like Might Guy's catchphrase, Obito offered some insight. "Whatever. Although it's a bit awkward, there's some truth to it. Let's go." Kakashi followed suit, as did Obito. Seeing the three boys in front of her, Rin looked at her own arms like white jade, gritted her teeth, and followed suit. "Just don't turn into a diamond Barbie, let the rest be." T/N, didn't understand it. Chapter 23. I can't go on. Atop the steep cliffs, Obito lay on the grass, not wanting to move a finger. Kakashi managed to hold on, but his stamina was severely depleted. Another round and he might end up like Obito. "Are you guys okay?" Kyomu was still energetic. "Can't handle this level of intensity? Then stop boasting about surpassing me in the future. It's embarrassing." Encouragement wasn't going to work, but teasing seemed to ignite the spirits of both Obito and Kakashi. And the effect was immediate. "Who said I can't go on? I'm just taking a break, that's all." Obito got up from the ground. "Come on, let's do another round." Kakashi didn't say anything but gave Kyomu a piercing look before silently turning around and leaping, grasping onto the protruding rocks of the cliff and slowly descending. Aragami Kyomu could mock about anything except for not being as good as him. Hitaki Kakashi couldn't stand it. A showdown was necessary. Kyomu naturally followed suit, descending from another direction along the crevices of the cliff. While Obito was too tired to move, he gritted his teeth and descended slowly along another side of the cliff, shivering. As for Rin, she knew she couldn't keep up with the three in their training progress, and her goals weren't aligned. So, she decided to leave the training early and went home to prepare dinner for them. How could they train on an empty stomach? When the three completed another round of climbing the 100-meter-high cliff, Rin came running from a distance with a food container in hand. "Hey!" She waved and shouted, "It's time to eat. I brought your favorites, I guarantee you'll be satisfied." Kyomu and the others all looked in Rin's direction, smiling on their faces. However, the way Kyomu and Kakashi looked at Rin was pure friendship, while there was a hint of something more in Obito's eyes. A girl so gentle and lovely naturally stirred something in Obito's heart. Soon, the four of them sat together, enjoying the various delicacies Rin brought. There was Obito's favorite tenrofu, Kakashi's beloved grilled autumn trout, and Kyomu's favorite mokuchiki flour. After the meal, their evaluation of Rin reached another level. This girl Rin, gentleness was ingrained in her, and thoughtfulness was her beautiful trait. Whether as a friend or a wife, she was the most suitable. No wonder she captivated Obito to the point where he wished to create a paradise of beauty with her, destroying the world if necessary. So full. Obito patted his round belly. "Rin, thank you. Don't mention it, it's what friends do." Rin smiled sweetly and then turned to ask Kyomu and Kakashi how they found the meal. "Great," Kyomu thumbs up. Did you make all these dishes yourself? Of course. Rin's face beamed with pride. I mentioned it when I introduced myself. My biggest dream is to become a medical ninja who saves lives, and next is to study and cook delicious food. A noble dream, Kakashi chimed in. Simple yet noble, much better than someone who constantly talks about unrealistic ideas. Kakashi, don't make me lay hands on you when I'm just finished eating. Obito joked. Don't talk to me with the mouth that's eaten Tenrofu, Kakashi retorted, disliking Tenrofu the most. He couldn't help but frown and distance himself from Obito. Hey! Obito suddenly noticed something extraordinary. Did you guys notice? Kakashi is still wearing a mask when eating. Is that something strange? Kakashi didn't think there was any problem. It's very strange, Kyomu and Rin echoed in unison. It's like eating with a mask on. You need to explain how you manage to eat while we're not looking. Kakashi rolled his dead fish eyes and helplessly shrugged. I can't explain it to you, and I can't be bothered to explain. Kyomu didn't press further, and after ignoring this issue, Obito pulled Kakashi into another round of banter. Even though he couldn't win a word against Kakashi out of 10, Obito was still enjoying himself. Kyomu had no intention of intervening. It was a good time to digest, watching the two argue was also quite entertaining, and it helped pass the time. It was a win-win situation. Half an hour passed in a chattering buzz. Standing up and patting his buttocks, I won the second stage of the training. So, I'll go run 2 laps around the village, and you guys can do as you please. Kyomu simply stretched his body, waved at the 3, and jogged away. Kakashi and Obito glanced at each other, then turned to look at Rin simultaneously. I think I'll pass, Rin shook her head. I can't keep up with Kyomu's training pace. Rin knew her limits. She truly couldn't handle Kyomu's training intensity, and Kyomu's training style wasn't suitable for her. She couldn't blindly follow along. In Uchiha Obito's mind, doubts began to arise. Physical strength was important for a ninja, but it wasn't everything. He also felt that Kyomu's training methods weren't suitable for himself. Kakashi finally glanced at the figure of Kyomu gradually disappearing into the distance. I won't go either. I need to go home and practice swordsmanship and other combat skills. Then let's part here. Obito smiled wryly. I don't know if Kyomu's training method is right or wrong. I just can't use it. I simply don't have his energy and endurance. After exchanging opinions, Kakashi left alone, while Obito accompanied Rin. The two walked together, chatting and laughing along the way, and agreed on training projects that both of them could accept, creating a harmonious atmosphere. Guy, come on. Don't let your youth go to waste. Yes, not wasting my youth. Might Guy shouted. If I can't complete 2 laps around the village, I'll do 1000 push-ups on the spot. Yes, that's the spirit. That's how youth should be. Might Do was moved by his own words, tears streaming down his face as he followed Guy, continuously cheering him on. Such a scene was already commonplace for the villagers or ninjas around. They were too exhausted to mock anymore. It was normal to exercise, but the unrealistic promises and self-aggrandizing slogans were a bit too comical. Especially their frequent self-congratulatory moments added a touch of absurdity. Moreover, would merely exercising really be effective? Shaking their heads, most people couldn't be bothered, except for a figure that gradually caught up and surpassed Du and Guy. Is that Kyomu? Guy, do you know him? Yeah, he's a genius surpassing Kakashi. Might Guy nodded, a hint of inexplicable inferiority flashing in his eyes. He's dazzling, making people too intimidated to approach him. Noticing the change in Guy's expression, Du suddenly grabbed him, squatting down and looking up at him. Guy, geniuses never waste their youth. So, we must work twice as hard, or else our youth will be meaningless. I understand, father. Du suddenly punched Guy, knocking him to the ground. No, you don't understand. In your eyes, I see cowardice. Father, I don't explain. The moment you hesitate, your youth loses its meaning, becomes dim and meaningless. You've disappointed me. No, I haven't. Guy got up from the ground. Since geniuses are working hard, then I will work twice, 10 times, 100 times harder. One day, I'll catch up to him and have a proper conversation with him. Guy. Father. Father and son embraced and wept together, a scene so familiar that the passers-by had no strength left to comment. It could only be said that like father, like son. Such bizarre displays of both tears and laughter resembled the behavior of someone suffering from late-stage schizophrenia. But no matter how you looked at it, Guy's rekindled spirit, and his resolute steps were commendable. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he only needed to take each step steadfastly and wait patiently. The future would not disappoint. Glancing back at the stumbling figures of Dua and his son, Kyomu felt deeply moved. But soon, he shook his head to dispel the thoughts in his mind and continued to run forward against the wind. He had his own path to tread, and while he could admire Dua and his son, there was no need to live like them. However, the Eight Gates formation might be worth considering. After all, coming close to or even becoming the final act had once been Kyomu's dream. Since he's come this far, he couldn't leave with regrets. Chapter 24. Time passed peacefully, with days remaining unchanged. Classes, teasing, training, and the constant competition from Might Guy trailing behind him, these were Kyomu's daily routines. Dull and monotonous, his days held no surprises, no unexpected turns, and certainly no one bothering to hinder or provoke him. Just a small fry keeping out of trouble and growing normally, hardly worth anyone's attention. Kakashi, Obito, and Rin had found the right approach to training with Kyomu. They trained in throwing techniques, exchanged ideas about ninjutsu and taijutsu, and occasionally sparred with each other. However, when it came to physical training, the three would only participate in a small portion, leaving Kyomu to complete the rest alone. They couldn't keep up, not at all. Kyomu's physical abilities and recovery were somewhat abnormal, leaving the others to only sigh in admiration as they watched his back. But for Might Guy, he found his own goal. What he looked forward to most every day was encountering Kyomu while running around the village, both of them sweating it out. He wanted to strike up a conversation, even more so, he wanted to spar with Kyomu to find his own shortcomings, but it always ended up going nowhere. Insecurity was Guy's biggest issue right now. Guy, if you want, you can catch up to him. Might Guy encouraged him from the side. I believe with Kyomu's personality, he won't refuse you. He's a good guy. Guy chuckled lightly. He's the only one at school who doesn't mock me, encourages me, and treats me as a worthy opponent. What are you waiting for, then, for the sake of youth? But father, I know my current level of strength. I'm not even close to being Kyomu's match. Stopping him, it will just be a bother, a waste of his youth. I can't be that selfish. Guy's eyes were firm. Father, I promise you, when I can run 3 laps around the village and do 2000 push UPS and sit UPS, I'll challenge him. Guy, I'm proud of you. Guy cheered with tears in his eyes. Keep it up, believe in your youth, believe in yourself. Yeah, I will. Guy nodded firmly and stepped out, following behind Kyomu as they circled the entire Konoha village. Kyomu wasn't in a hurry, letting the Might father and son trail behind him. When the time was right, they would approach him willingly. And the 8 inner gates, this forbidden taijutsu technique, would be an opportunity when Might Guy approached him in the future. The most urgent task now was to maximize his physical fitness during the passive skill duration of Reward of Resilience. Effort never betrays one's intentions, especially when coupled with this passive skill effects. Kyomu's current physical strength was impressive. He could run 3 laps around the village and still have energy for another 7 hours of various types of physical training when he got home. It was terrifying, but amidst the pain, Kyomu's gains were quite satisfactory. Firstly, his chakra had increased by more than 3 times compared to half a month ago, and it was still growing steadily. Though there was still a gap compared to a ton of chakra, he was much stronger than Kakashi. At present, he could only barely reach the threshold of chakra depletion after releasing 7 or 8 C-rank ninjutsu consecutively. Secondly, his physical attributes were also improving rapidly. Strength was growing the fastest. A punch might not be able to kill a cow, but against a low-level ninja, they probably couldn't withstand 2 punches from Kyomu. Along with strength, his speed had also increased. When attacking or running at full speed, Kyomu had reached the point where he could barely leave after images. As for reaction speed and mental strength, it was hard to judge. Progress was certain, but Kyomu had no idea how to test them specifically. 3 in the morning. Kyomu set down the dumbbells in his hands and stretched his body, preparing to take a shower and rest for an hour. This was necessary, even though his body's recovery speed was at its peak. Kyomu wasn't a perpetual motion machine. He needed rest. However, the unlimited reduction in rest time meant that an hour of rest for Kyomu could already replenish his energy enough to continue battling for another 23 hours. Lying on the bed, Kyomu didn't immediately close his eyes, he was pondering something. The poor rely on their intellect, while the rich rely on their money. Unable to help but sigh, Kyomu continued, I've hit rock bottom with my living expenses this month. Physical training required good nutrition and necessary equipment, such as weight plates, which were indispensable. With Kyomu's current rate of progress, he needed to add 1 or 2 weight plates almost every day, and these plates required money to purchase. Not to mention other training equipment that needed continuous upgrading. Kyomu had to keep spending money, but he could only rely on living expenses for now. I need to find a way to earn some money. Kyomu pondered, and a plan gradually formed in his mind. Fangirl's economy seems to be applicable in the world of Naruto as well, and women's money is particularly easy to earn. Setting up a stall to trade was impossible, Kyomu didn't have that kind of time. But using Kakashi as merchandise? That, he had time for. The skills I cultivated last month to pass the time can finally come in handy. Kyomu chuckled as he lay in bed. Kakashi, I haven't violated our agreement, I won't tell anyone what you look like. With a peace of mind, Kyomu fell asleep in 3 seconds. At 4:30 in the morning, his biological clock woke him up precisely. Stretching and getting dressed, spending half an hour on washing up and having breakfast, Kyomu picked up his brush when the sky was barely bright. Done. Another nearly 2 hours of busy work, Kyomu looked at the thick stack of drawings in his hand, clapping his hands together as he stood up. I believe the little girls who secretly admire Kakashi will be more than willing to spend a little money on him. Kyomu fell into the trap of money. After making money, I'll treat Kakashi to a meal first, and then buy the training equipment I need with the rest of the money. Still, he had a conscience. However, this was Kyomu's wishful thinking, whether Kakashi would let him off was another story altogether. Chapter 25. At 4 in the afternoon, the ninja school let them out. As usual, Kakashi was waiting for Kyomu and the others at the school gate. But today was strange. He felt as if he had been seen through. Whether walking together or alone, the glances from the girls leaving the school gate were peculiar. Unable to resist, he touched the lower half of his face covered by his mask, making sure there were no holes. Only then did Kakashi breathe a sigh of relief. However, even so, his intuition told him that things were not simple. Until Kakashi. A girl gathered her courage and approached. Do you have time today? No. Just a little bit. The girl persisted with a sad expression. Kakashi didn't respond immediately. Instead, he impatiently stood on his tiptoes, scanning the direction of the ninja school, trying to spot Kyomu and the others in the crowd. Unfortunately, Kakashi's thoughts were in vain. What is it? Kakashi could only respond coldly. Could you sign this drawing for me? The girl's eyes were hopeful as she unfolded neatly folded drawing paper and handed it to Kakashi. When Kakashi saw the half-body portrait on the paper, his eyes widened with a sense of absurdity engulfing him. How could this be? How could he look so goofy, and in such a cool pose? He couldn't pull off something like this even if he tried. Who, on earth, did this? The next moment, out of the corner of his eye, Kyomu's figure suddenly appeared, and Kakashi instantly had an answer and a reason to refuse the girl. The person I'm waiting for is coming. No time. It's just a signature, won't take much of your time. The girl persisted, besides, you're waiting for Kyomu, right? You're both boys, that's not a reason. With a vein throbbing on his forehead, Kakashi looked at the girl and firmly refused again, I don't want to. That's final, okay. Leaving behind those words, Kakashi bypassed the girl and headed straight for Kyomu, who was chatting with Obito and Rin. Watching Kakashi's retreating figure, the girl's eyes filled with disappointment, tears even welled up in the corners of her eyes. She liked him so much, she even spent half a month's pocket money to buy this drawing, but he didn't want to leave his name on it. Unfortunately, Kakashi wasn't going down the path of a celebrity, and he was currently quite angry, striding forward with determination. Kyomu. A dozen steps away, Kyomu heard Kakashi's shout and looked up in surprise. You don't have to shout, I can hear you. Do you think you can fool me? Kakashi approached Kyomu, the two almost bumping shoulders. Tell me, what good deed did you do today? Seeing Kakashi so close and the dead fish eyes facing him, Kyomu understood. Actually, wearing a mask can dampen any extra noise from breathing. You're not out of breath. With just a sentence, the imposing aura that Kakashi had built up vanished, and he couldn't help but step back and turn his head away. Don't distract me. You promised not to reveal my appearance to anyone. I didn't tell anyone. Kyomu shrugged. Then what's with the portrait they have? Kakashi clenched his fists, and such a goofy expression and cool pose, how could I possibly do that? Next time, I'll draw your dead fish eyes accurately. Kyomu didn't have that consciousness at all. Kakashi's emotions were stirred up again. Kyomu. Our friendship is over, you're not trustworthy. I really didn't tell anyone, it's just that I lost the drawing I made before. If that's the case, Kyomu, you owe me my pocket money back. Rin added a critical remark. Hey. Obito's expression became subtle. Rin, did you also buy Kakashi's portrait? Yeah, just out of curiosity. Rin explained, but Kakashi really looks cute, quite likable. Is this a confession? Obito was dumbfounded, but Kakashi wasn't thinking about that right now, he felt his face was utterly lost. Is cute an adjective that should be used for boys? Kyomu, look what you've done. I'll treat you to barbecue, how about it? Kyomu stepped forward, putting his arm around Kakashi's shoulder, all you can eat, unlimited juice, and don't be so stingy. Let go of me. Nope. Kyomu hugged tighter, there are so many people watching, cooperate a little. What you did is unforgivable. Kakashi struggled frantically, but Kyomu's strength made him secretly alarmed. Just the day before yesterday, when the two sparred, Kyomu's strength was already considerable, but today, compared to the day before yesterday, his strength had increased a lot. This growth rate seemed a bit faster, changing every day. Standing behind the two, Obito was still confused, occasionally glancing at Rin, who was glowing. He really wanted to ask if Rin liked Kakashi. Kyomu, don't make me resort to violence. Kakashi threatened. Let's go eat barbecue first, eat to our heart's content, and then we'll settle this. Tell me, how much money did you make? Kakashi stopped struggling, staring at Kyomu with dead fish eyes. Not much, just enough to treat you guys to a barbecue. TCH, you're just an opportunistic guy. Kakashi shook his head, muttering, you're making a profit off me for no reason. Don't talk nonsense, that's the result of my hard work, alright. Kyomu patted Kakashi's shoulder, slowly leaning towards his ear. Kakashi, do you want a share of the profits? What are you up to? Now that others already know what you look like, I might as well sell a couple more, right? You wish. Kakashi punched Kyomu's side, no more selling, no more drawing. Hiss. Kyomu sucked in a breath of cold air, you really mean it, Kakashi? Humph. Kakashi coldly responded and took the opportunity to break free from Kyomu's grip, continuing to walk forward. Kyomu caught up, Kakashi, my bad this time, how about we call it even over barbecue? Seeing Kyomu finally give in, Kakashi felt much better, but forgiving so quickly would obviously lose face. Leaving Kyomu hanging for 3 to 5 seconds, I'll pick the place, and I'll decide how we're going to spar today. As you wish. Kyomu nodded repeatedly, and the last bit of tension in Kakashi's heart dissipated. Watching the two of them walking side by side again, joking and laughing, Rin couldn't help but feel envious. Do boys always handle conflicts between each other so gracefully, with tensions resolved so quickly? In most cases, yes, but it depends on the individuals. Obito added, besides, Kyomu is really easy to get along with. Even if he occasionally teases a bit, it doesn't affect anything. That's true. It's very comfortable to be around Kyomu. Rin nodded. What about Kakashi, in your opinion? Obito blurted out subconsciously. I think he's fine. But the way you looked at Kakashi just now. Where did I have any extra glances? Rin took hold of Obito's hand, let's go, they're both far away now. Obito was stunned, but as he caught up with Rin's steps, a smile returned to his face. As long as Rin doesn't like Kakashi or Kyomu, then it's good. He could continue to like her again. End of chapter.
Thanks for listening.